inches from Akinjo.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Sanders throws too high, intercepted, and being run back by J.T. Lewis inside the 10 and out of bounds. They're marking right near the 10-yard line.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Lennon, that ball was tipped into the air, and the ball-hawking Cowboys have another pick. This is Jordan Lewis. A career-high third interception, and this is what Dallas's defense has done as well as any team in the league.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Championship if you score in all likelihood, and perhaps the CFP. Jackson trying to turn the corner, and he did not get there. Jalen Petrie raced him to the pylon and made sure he came up inches short.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Here we go on the Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on Wednesday, the countdown to Christmas. On Saturday, of course, Christmas week. We hope you all are enjoying at least the last few hours of whenever you work, or if you're already off to enjoy the weekend coming up. David Smoke with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. Background in, of course, running the mothership is Armstrong Sims as well. So G.J. Kinney, former quarterback at Tulsa, played in the NFL. He's going to be named and has been now officially named the head coach at Incarnate Word. We'll have G.J. on the show next week to discuss his new endeavor and journey in his coaching ladder. Other than that, remember it was a surge throughout the last month or two, all of these coaching changes. And it seems like all of a sudden you look up and they're all filled. There's going to be still maybe more at some point with the bowl season ending up. Who knows? But it does seem like rapid fire, everything's gone.
I do wonder if any college head coaches will be up for NFL jobs. The NFL's a weird league in that they're a copycat league, so if something works, then everybody will do it. We saw in the great, Sean McVay chase of 2018, where everybody wanted anybody who been anywhere near Sean McVay or ran an offense like Sean McVay. So, Brandon Staley, which is a good hire. Cliff Kingsbury tried to be a good hire, but all those things happened. But it also might work the other way, that Urban Meyer didn't work out so spectacularly badly that now you may not see college coaches in the cycle. And, Ryan Day's name was kicked around for the Bears, although it looks like Leslie Frazier might be the favorite for that job, the defensive coordinator for Buffalo. So I don't know if there's a college coach out there that would have NFL aspirations that would be holding a current job right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. Ryan Day is a name that's been bandied about, but that just doesn't make any sense to me, really. I think he'd be a bit more selective rather than just chase an NFL job, being where he is in Columbus. But, yeah, I mean, there's always some name that's out there that's a possibility, and I don't know really scan the landscape who that would be. It seems like a lot of the NFL jobs, as you mentioned, are kind of already pre-filled or already look like they're being eyed by some guys who are in the league right now. So, yeah, I mean, the college coaching carousel, you can never say never. I think there will be more movement after National Signing Day number 2, but that obviously won't be head coaches. That'll be, assistants and whatnot. So, yeah, I think we're kind of steady for right now. But, obviously, like the Urban Meyer story, just kind of, even though that wasn't really out of nowhere, the way it happened so quickly was sort of out of nowhere. And as we've seen with Lincoln Riley, anything can happen in a moment's notice. So, it's all calm waters right now, but it was just a crazy ocean just a few days ago, and it could turn into that real quick again. But I think we're good for right now.
If you think about college football, this year alone, last year was all mainly about COVID, leading up to it, because COVID came blowing through the country back in the early part of 2020, and it was the fear that we may not even play games. But we had a champion. Alabama won another national championship, of course, early on this year. But now just looking at the game itself, and COVID's flared up, and we saw the story, in fact, about just locally, Texas A&M had to shut down some of their bowl prep because of a COVID flare-up, and that's starting to hit yet again. But as far as college football, the game itself, the way it is structured, which is the biggest deal? The early national signing period, the transfer portal, coaches leaving earlier because perhaps of the early signing period, or NIL?
None of the above. I'll say the college football playoff. That's what they need to get figured out more than anything else, in my opinion, is the college football playoff. I mean, this back and forth on 4 teams, 6 teams, 8 teams, 12 teams. I mean, whatever. Like, figure it out. I mean, I've been saying that for a while now. Just figure it out. I'm tired of hearing all the discussion about it. I want to just see the end result. And I know there's reasons for this format and reasons for that format. I mean, I know all that other stuff's important too. It really is. But in terms of the game, the thing that they can't seem to figure out is the college football playoff. And that's the simplest thing, because that's a part of just the game. That's not dealing with outside companies. I mean, yeah, technically, I guess it does factor in outside companies when you're talking about media rights and things like that. But they're not going to put NIL back in the hat at this point. Like, that's all out there, and all they can do now is try to crowd as best they can. I don't really know how you stop coaches from leaving. I mean, that's going to be pretty impossible to do that. Every time, and it's college athletics. Every time a new rule is set, somebody's like 5 minutes from bending it and breaking it and figuring out a way to just make it irrelevant. So I think they need to figure out a lot. I think they need to figure out more of how to prevent the stem of, coaches leaving like they did this year, because that was just ugly. The amount of coaching changes that occurred as quickly as they did and all the turnover that caused. NIL, obviously, all the states need to be on the same page. Like, that's pretty clear that, there's certain states taking advantage of the rules or feeling like, oh, well, we're behind the 8 ball. We've got to do this now. And, everybody just needs to be on the same page as far as that goes. But I'll say the college football playoff, because that's the crown jewel of your entire season, and everybody else knows how to do it, and you're the only sport in the entire world that does not know how to have a proper postseason.
Well, I was just going to answer one of your answers, but Craig has kind of trumped it in that it's such a great answer, because the college football playoff would affect almost everything. If 12 teams are in the playoffs, then maybe you don't have coaches leaving to go to a team that is more likely to get in that playoff. Maybe you have them stay. Maybe there is more money. There will be more money for a school that's not LSU or, Alabama or some of these gigantic, essentially football conglomerates to money whip somebody out of, leaving where they are. If there's 12 teams, then maybe that's one thing you can take off the list of, well, as long as I'm here, call it the Luke Fickell thing. As long as I'm here, I'll never get in. You could maybe stop asking Luke Fickell, because the money might be there, because he might be in the playoff and year in and year out. So it goes on and it goes on.
Luke Fickell's name is going to be one of those that comes up anytime there's whether Cincinnati got in or not.
He was an example, but there's Jeff Traylor. Okay, look, maybe it keeps Jeff Traylor. I don't think so. Eventually, he's going to go to a bigger school than UTSA, but maybe it keeps a guy like that at a school longer because they have a shot. Then it also enhances the NIL money, because then 12 teams, each year might have a chance to get somebody as kind of a college football playoff hero. Kind of like with the NCAA tournament, there are people who never did a lick in the NBA, but I remember Tyus Edney forever, or Mateen Cleaves, because of what they did in the NCAA tournament. Who are these college football guys that could get kind of that because of the college football playoff? Not because they won the championship, but maybe because they knocked out Ohio State when they weren't supposed to in a great game. So getting the college football playoff will figure out, a good ton of that stuff now. The transfer portal and all that, maybe if you're on a team, if you were on, UTSA and were really good and wanted to transfer to a team like LSU, maybe you wouldn't, because your team was getting closer. But I don't know if that stuff is ever going to change now.
Then why not go to LSU immediately?
Yeah.
And of course, now we're starting the quarterback at Incarnate Word, who's so good, is being recruited by everybody, or most everybody, because of the fact now he's in the transfer portal. That makes me nervous. That right there makes me nervous. I know players could transfer anytime, whether they're leaving because they're no longer the starter, but now it's almost as if you have the power boys, you have that group. Okay, that's always going to be there, no matter what they do with the playoff or not. But now my concern is, and this is not me being like, I'm not worried, I don't lose sleep over this, but what about now the incarnate words of the UT San Antonios, with all due respect to them, or others who now become the farm system for the other top 15 to 30 teams? I
said this to Grayson on the podcast. He was, we got a question about, like, what's more damaging to college football, the transfer portal or I forget what the other option was, and I think kind of went around in a circle, and I ultimately said both. At first I said it was the whole not having to sit out a year, I think, plays a huge role, and guys can just go. They just go. Like Eli Ricks is just like, you're on Alabama now and you're ready to play. And everything, like the problem with arguing against this is that everything falls back on, well, the players deserve it. And so, like, there's no arguments for anything. There's no arguments for anything because all the response is going to be, well, the players deserve it because the coaches get all this, so the players deserve it. So, I mean, we can talk about the way it should be, the transfer portal, this or that, but ultimately the answer to college athletics and everything is going to be, yeah, well, the players deserve it. The coaches get it, the players deserve it. So we're just going to spin our tires as far as that goes because that's out of the box now. The players have all the leverage, really, it feels like, now at this point. But yeah, like the incarnate word deal, I brought that up to Grayson. Grayson's like, yeah, and like now there's all these schools, and I'm like, well, kind of sucks for incarnate word, doesn't it?
Yep.
Like that they identified him, then nobody else did, and that they signed him and nobody else did, and they brought him on and had him had the year that he had and nobody else did, and now they're screwed because now Clemson wants him or, whoever. So, yeah, and he's like, well, I mean, if he's deserving of the opportunity, and it's like, yeah, true, but like, I get it. Like everything was in the school's favor, and now everything's in the player's favor, and there's no middle ground because now the school's getting screwed. And it's like, well, the player deserves it. Again, what did I go back to? Well, the player deserves it. He should have the opportunity, and I agree with that. But I also think Incarnate Word deserves to have the guy that they identified and they signed. And yeah, it's almost like you're going to turn this into a farm system, which some people could say, well, it's that anyways, but it's like, no, it really is now. Now it really is because now we're talking about the freaking quarterback and Incarnate Word. When have we ever talked about the quarterback or the football team and Incarnate Word?
Yeah, because if this would have happened when Carson Wentz was a freshman or sophomore at North Dakota State, and maybe he stays there because of where they were in the pecking order of the FCS, but how many quarterbacks that were stories that came out of smaller schools would never have stayed there in the current environment?
If Alcorn State would have rolled out Steve McNair his sophomore year, and Alabama could have gone, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you want Steve McNair? I mean, he wasn't he a Heisman finalist at Alcorn State? I mean, like he was in the discussion. I don't remember all the way back then, but I mean, he was putting up numbers. So if you're Steve McNair, or I mean, it's in quarterbacks, but because a lot of times the position players don't really get noticed until they get in an NFL system that lets them flourish, like Jerry Rice, even though he was putting up huge numbers at Mississippi Valley. But yeah, especially quarterbacks. If you could have taken Steve McNair or Carson Wentz or
Jimmy Garoppolo, Tony Romo, Joe Flacco, Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah. These are just some. I just saw this story.
At the same time, though, it's like, another point that was raised was, well, he deserves it. Again, going back to the player deserves it, and yes, true. And I agree that the transfer portal does allow for a young man like that to then have the opportunity where maybe he got overlooked and he got under-recruited, and now he's actually going to be at a proper school where he should have been to begin with. But, it sucks for the school. It sucks that you were the one to get him and sign him and identify him, and it's just like now, it doesn't matter. He can just go where he wants to. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, when I look at it. Because, the player deserves it, but, the school also deserves for that signature to matter something, and it doesn't seem like that signature matters at all anymore. So I don't know what you do about it. I really don't. I mean, I'm open-minded to all sides of it, but it is it's just kind of crazy.
We mentioned, so how about Phil Simms back in the days? He's at Morehead State. Steve McNair was on this list. This is a list on 247 Sports. It's a hell of a list of names that we mentioned. Every one of them are on here. Stan Humphries at Northeast Louisiana. Kurt Warner. I don't know about Kurt Warner because he didn't go straight like star. He was good, but he eventually was somebody that, because of what he did after college, and then had to hit, what was he in the Arena League or whatever, then he becomes a star. It comes out of nowhere, basically, but was a good player, no question, at a school that's had high levels of standard in northern Iowa. Rich Gannon at Delaware. There's all sorts of names. Ken O'Brien from UC Davis.
Well, Rich Gannon in particular is mobile. He was the guy who ran around. So, there's lots of guys you could have. Doug Williams is at Grambling, right? So if you could have plucked guys out of nowhere, sure.
I think we're going a little far back because a lot of those guys wouldn't pick those schools nowadays.
Yeah.
But, in the terms of a Flacco or some more recent guys, and that's not even that recent at this point, those make a lot of sense as guys who, you'd have a big year at Delaware and then turn around and go to Ohio State. And, I know it goes both ways, but I don't know. I'm tired of spinning wheels on it because, there's an argument against it there's argument both ways. There really is. There's no, just one answer to it. The players should be allowed to have the freedom because of what the coaches in them are allowed, and coaches and programs should be allowed to feel like there should be some sense of loyalty, but there's not because what gets pointed to, they get pointed to because they don't have loyalty. You know what I mean? And
in the NFL, if you're drafted, a team has your rights, Paul, for how many years?
4 or 5.
4 or 5 years, right?
Depending on where you are.
At least you're a part of them. They get you for 4 or 5 years. Now, they can cut you before you even get to the first season, but at least there's something there. You sign a national letter of intent, it might be for 2 weeks. You don't know because of the way things are, and it's becoming even more professional than the NFL.
Well, that's the thing that's weird about it is that the players almost have more options than NFL players as far as movement goes. But then again, what's the argument? Well, they don't get paid millions of dollars. Well, now they do. In some cases, they do. Quinn Ewers is apparently getting $4 million from Texas. That's the hot rumor, right? I'm sure there's others that are getting, in the 7 figures. We know there is because Quinn Ewers was getting that before he went to Texas. He was getting that at Ohio State, based on what was all thrown out there. And we know there's been others like, at Alabama that have, signed $1 million type deals or whatever. So, everything you say can be thrown back at you. And that's what's the weird part about it is you can play the player side of things and be right about everything, and you can play the coach's side of things and be right about everything, and you can play the school side of things and be right about everything. And that just leads us to where we are right now.
It just seems like everything is free, except my bills that I have to pay every month. And that's another story. Now, when we come back, Jim Grobe, former Baylor head coach, longtime coach at Wake Forest, as he has watched Baylor as they went on to win the Big 12 championship, his thoughts about coaching, his thoughts about college football, and his thoughts, and goes deep inside some questions about his time, very short time, but a valuable time he spent at Baylor. Also in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to look back at Realignment, about the changes in college football, the landscape in late July when Texas and Oklahoma decided. That story popped with Brent Zerneman about the SEC and how that changed everything going forward. And we'll kind of break down again where everybody is with that graphic presentation from Tony Altimore. We'll have that to kind of summarize the show. In between all that, much more to get to. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Bellmead locations. With bright open lobbies, plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'em125 for 125% bonus on cash or SICK'em200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'em125 and SICK'em200.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
All right. He is as good as it gets. One of the most humble gentlemen you'll ever meet. Former Wake Forest and also Baylor football coach Jim Grobe decided not to play golf this afternoon so he could join us on Sick'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. How you been, Coach?
Too good, Smokey. How you doing?
We're doing well. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, David Smoke with Jim Grobe. So how much do you get a chance to watch Baylor? And what are your thoughts about what you've seen Dave Aranda do after what Matt Rule did before he went to the NFL?
Well, we get to see him once in a while. We don't get all the games back here in Georgia, but just amazing. I mean, what a great job. I think that, nobody realizes how hard it is to pull all those pieces together, and then to follow what Matt Rule did was no easy task. And to see those guys play this year and see how well they balanced out, offensively, defensively, special teams, all those things, and how many close games they had that they came out on top. Just as good a coaching job, I think, as it was done in the country.
Jalen Petrie was the only recruit that you guys had on the board when you were here for that one season. What do you remember about talking to him during that time in what was a very unique situation?
Well, we lost about every kid, Smoke, when they were when we were trying to keep those kids in the boat. I was going all over the place and spent a lot of time on the phone trying to tell people what a great place Baylor was. And it was just a lot of nasty stuff being said by a lot of schools, pulling kids away from us. And to have him stick with us and come to Baylor was just really, really special. And it's fun to see the kids that, that hung in there with us and stayed at Baylor, the success that they've had is very well deserved.
I was looking over the 2016 roster, Coach, and I think on this current team, the only player that still remains from 2016 is Raleigh Tejada, cornerback, and he's obviously continued to be heavily involved. Now, he was a young player when you were around him, just a freshman, but do you have any memories of interactions with Raleigh or maybe just kind of noticing something from him early on?
I just remember him being a wonderful kid, and he's one of those kids that had the most beautiful smile. I just always liked being around him. He made you feel good just with a great smile, and it's great to see him doing so well. Jaron McVay at the end of the game to make that great play. I mean, that was so cool. I mean, it's just been through the years for us to see Baylor play as well as they have under Matt Rule. And now under Dave Aranda has just been really a lot of fun for me and Holly back here in Georgia.
You mentioned Jaron, and I
forgot about him. Yeah,
and of course he made the play that I voted him for MVP with all due respect to Shapen because he also had a pick in that game. But you mentioned him; he was a walk-on, and
Yep.
really had very little interest from anybody. I think Texas Southern was one, or a couple of others. Your thoughts about what you saw in Jaron, if you remember that story?
Well, again, a kid that worked hard every day, and I think my heart is with walk-ons. People don't realize when a kid comes to play as a walk-on, he's really coming for one reason. He loves to play football. Now, hopefully, in the back of his mind, he's being motivated by the possibility of earning a scholarship and maybe being able to play. But kids that walk on at a school like Baylor, playing at the highest level, playing in the Power 5 conferences, for them to stay and earn a scholarship and end up, playing at a high level, being starter, those kind of things, is just really, really special. But really, your team, the success of your team, is as much due to the walk-ons that come to work every day and help you practice every day at a great level. That's what makes teams great. And so, my heart as a coach has always been with walk-ons, and I tell my team all the time, hey, I love the guys that are here on scholarship, but the guys I admire the most are the guys that are here playing football just because they love the game.
What do you think of Dave Aranda's style? It's probably more aligned with what you did at Wake Forest than when you had come in here to the wide-open offense at Baylor.
Well, I think that there's a mix in there. I loved when I first got to Baylor. I loved what we were doing offensively, but we went so fast sometimes. I didn't even have a chance to ask Phil Bennett, our defensive coordinator, on fourth down if he thought we were going to go for it. KB'd already snapped the ball by the time I'm looking down the sideline and going to ask Phil if he wants us to go for it. Before I can ask him, it's already been snapped and we're gone. And it puts a lot of pressure on the defense to do that. And so I think the thing that I've really admired about Dave Aranda and his coaching staff is that they're really solid offensively, but they also play great defense, and they've got a good mix of the way they put those two things together. I think to watch them play, I just think it's a total team, including their special teams. I just think Baylor's special.
Coach, between all the stuff that's facing college athletics these days, we had, expansion and realignment when the OU and Texas news dropped during the summer, and that created a whole domino effect. You got name, image, likeness. You've got transfer portal. How happy are you to not be coaching right now and dealing with all that type of stuff?
Well, I tell people a lot, what I really miss is coaching a position. I miss my linebackers. I miss when I could go out on the field and just coach linebackers. There's kind of a formula to this thing. When you're an assistant coach, that equals fun. And when you're a head coach, it pretty much means no fun. Because if you're not out there every day coaching a position, you don't get as close to the players, to your position group as you would like. And then with all the things that are going on right now, I still love coaching and I miss being in coaching. But with all the things that are going on with the transfer portal and NIL and all the things that are going on right now, it's a different world out there, and I think everybody's going to have to adapt.
When you arrived at Baylor, there was a tough situation that you faced. And, of course, as you said, everything was being said about everybody. And you tried to tell them about your experience in the short amount of time you were there. One of the guys on the staff, Jeff Lebby. And, of course, he was the son-in-law of Coach Briles and the brother-in-law of Kendall. He now has the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. He has moved back up the ladder. He just did a great job at Ole Miss. What do you remember about just seeing and watching Jeff Lebby when he was at Baylor?
Well, Jeff Lebby's one of the coaches that I admire. That's one of the, he had a lot of pressure on him there. I took a lot of criticism because I kept all the staff together when I got there, but to my knowledge, the staff had not done anything wrong, and so I kept those guys and took a lot of criticism from the press and a lot of different directions. A lot of bullets were flying in a lot of different directions, but I've never been around a better coach than Jeff Lebby. Jeff had our special teams as well as coaching the running backs, and he worked really well with KB. KB's another one of my guys that I love, but I just fell in love with Jeff Lebby and his coaching style. And one of the greatest coaching points that I stayed in coaching, I was going to make all my coaches use it all the time. Leb was so good with these players, and he had a great relationship with them, but he could really be tough with them if he needed to. But whenever he was trying to make a coaching point with his players, he would look them right in the eye and he would say, "Does that make sense?" And if they said, "Yes, sir," then they better get it right, because if they screwed it up after he specifically asked, because here's the deal. When you're watching video or when you're looking at the playbook, showing them the playbook, or when you're walking through it on the field, kids learn different ways. A lot of kids can't learn it by watching film. A lot of kids can't learn it by the playbook. A lot of kids can't learn it by you just saying it to them. So you got to find a way for the kids to figure out what the coaching point is. And I thought Leb's point to him was, "Does that make sense?" was perfect. And he's one of my favorite coaches. I love being around him. And I thought, KB had a tough time too with his dad having been gone, and then Leb, that was tough. With him, his situation going home with his wife and family every night. So he's just one of my favorite guys. I can't say enough good things about Jeff Lebby.
Dave Clawson's done one heck of a job at your other former stop there at Wake Forest, Coach. And, I know they fell short of the ACC title, but that offense was wide open. They were one of the toughest teams to play in the entire country this year. And what do you think about Wake Forest's potential now that Dave Clawson has made at least a commitment to stay in the short term?
Well, Dave's done a great job at Wake Forest. And, Dave's very similar to the way we were when I was at Baylor. I mean, they play speedball now, and, that puts your defense out there a lot. The thing, I love the teams that play really, really fast. I really do. And I had a lot of fun watching KB and Jeff and those guys run the offense. But the problem is you might score in 3 plays, or you may throw 3 incomplete passes and be off in 3 plays. And so a lot of times the defense is just hitting the seat of their pants on the bench, and you're saying, "Defense, get ready." And so in watching Wake Forest, it just makes me remember so much how much fun it was to watch the offense at Baylor, but the defense has really got to be ready at the drop of a hat to go right back. And it's not always, a lot of teams are 3 plays and out, but a lot of times at Baylor it was 3 plays and score, and that's the way Wake Forest was this year, and it's been fun to watch. I mean, they're just really electric offensively and play really, really fast. If you think of Wake Forest offense, it's very similar to the way we were at Baylor with KB and Leb and those guys.
Jim, you mentioned Lebby, and I had a conversation, a short one today, with Randy Clements, who's at North Texas as a volunteer coach. Phil Bennett is there, among some others as well. Taylor Young, the linebacker, is there on staff, and there's others, and they're all spread around the country. You had to deal with that staff, and you've kind of discussed that with us before, and you brought it up a little bit today. Was there ever a time, because there was always this thought that maybe they shut it down. I know things were tough when you played down in Texas that game when you were 6-0. It was a brutal loss. And then, of course, the next week with TCU and other things as well. Did you ever get the sense, because that's been something that has been out there, and I wanted to clear the air, did you ever feel like they just shut it down on you?
Never. I never felt that way. I do feel like the staff, I feel this way, and I think our staff would feel the same way, that we'd like to go back the week before the Texas game and do a better job getting the kids prepared for what was coming. Because I think if you remember, there were some stories on ESPN that morning before we played. I think Art was actually on TV, and I'm sure that the players were probably tuned into that. And there was just a lot of sadness on the part of our coaching staff, and I understood that. They were very close to Coach Briles. It was no problem for me to hug those guys and support them. But, I think it wasn't that we did a job we didn't work less in preparation. The staff worked their tail ends off to get the kids ready to play. We probably just didn't realize how distracted the players might get as the season went on. And that's probably the one thing. I think if we went back, Phil would probably tell you this, but I thought our coaches did a fantastic job coaching the kids. I just think the kids, for a while there, just for a little bit toward the second half of the season, were a little bit more distracted than they should have been. We weren't as focused on playing football as we should have been. But what was really, really fun was when we played Boise in the bowl game. The kids were back, the coaches were back. We got our feet back on the ground and just played a really good Boise State team well.
You played them off their feet. I mean, you guys pretty much dominated that game. Katie Cannon had a monster game as well. How much did it help at least soothe some of what happened the last 6 games by winning that bowl game? And I remember having a chance to visit with you. I remember and I bring this up every time because it was very eerie and yet it was very peaceful for you. You walked across the field after all the media. How much did it help to end it with that win against Boise State?
Oh, I can't even begin to tell you how good it felt. For me, it was all about the coaches and the players. I knew what they had gone through for a whole season, and I wanted so much to help them. That's one of the things that still tugs at my heart. I wish somehow I could have done a better job, kind of keeping everything together throughout the whole season. We kind of had it the first half of the season, and then the wheels got wobbly there for a while, and then we kind of got it back together toward the end of the season. And that win against Boise State, I think people thought Boise State was going to pin our ears back. And to get that win was just, for me, special to see the players' smiles again, to see the coaches. That preparation leading up to the bowl game, watching the coaches, really back to focusing just on coaching the kids. We had great practices and watching the kids play in that game like their hair was on fire. I mean, our guys flew around and got after Boise State. And then at the end of the game, to see, it was just a relief to see the kids that were finally out there having fun. I think our coaches really in that game had a really good time coaching again. It kind of justified why we were there for the players, and that was a great feeling.
Jim Grove, former Baylor football coach, with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Coach, I was curious. There's so much debate still going on about the college football playoff. There were more meetings today, and it seems a lot of the conferences still aren't on the same page. As a longtime coach, as somebody who's kind of been able to sit back and sort of watch the landscape the last few years, what do you think of the 4-team playoff? And if you were asked for your input on how a college football champion should be crowned, what would be your thoughts?
Well, I like the 4-team playoff. I think there's some justification for expanding the playoffs, but I think it's kind of a national approach. I think you have to involve all the conferences, the presidents, the athletic directors. I think it's something that everybody has to be on the same page with. But I think the underlying determinant here should be the players. I think that, I know that some of the FCS schools, when they have an expanded playoff, feel like that when you get to the end of the year, if you have too many teams involved in the playoff, it's the healthiest team that ends up winning a national title. And so if you play too many games, you've got to say, what's this going to do, with the players? Are we going to have the best team, or are we just going to have the healthiest team at the end of the year? But I think there's some justification for expanding the playoff. But I like 4. If we wanted to expand it, I wouldn't be against that. But I think it's really everybody has to be involved in making that decision, not just one person.
Have you ever thought, if there ever was one, and they've always just not done this, of being a commissioner of college football?
I hadn't really thought about it. My guy is Grant Taft, and when Coach Taft asked me if I'd come and help with Baylor, that was our biggest blessing was getting to spend time with Coach Taft and his wife Donnell. Donnell and Holly now are really close, and we were always friends with Coach Taft and Donnell. But I was on a lot of coaches' committees, ethics committee, and a lot of other committees. But we really fell in love with them when we were at Baylor. Coach Taft would call me about every night about 10 o'clock. The phone would ring, and I knew it was Coach Taft. He'd call it and say, are you still here? Are you okay? Are you going to be okay? He was always checking in on me every night. And Holly just got to know Donnell so well. So, it became, they were friends, and now we love those two to death. But somebody like Coach Taft, who led the American Football Coaches Association for so many years, was a guy who truly had college football in his best interest. I mean, really an unselfish approach to college football and especially to the student athlete. When we start talking about playoffs and expansion and everything that we do in college athletics, it really needs to be focused on the player. And a lot of times we forget the student athlete part of this thing. And so I think everything we look at, and if there was somebody like Grant Taft that could kind of oversee everything, and I don't know that there's anybody ever like him again out there, but if there was, then I would at least be, prone to say, if we've got somebody that really can put the best interest of college football in front of him, then that might be something worthwhile.
There's one more thing I have. I had Kevin Gall, who works at Baylor Athletics, give me this note. Mack Rhodes hired Tom Herman at Houston, who took them at that time to a New Year's Six Bowl. He was there in August after you had been hired. He hired Matt Rule that took Baylor to a New Year's Six Bowl, and now he's hired Dave Aranda, who's taken Baylor to a New Year's Six Bowl and the Sugar Bowl as well. What did you get to know about him when he first arrived, and what was that relationship like? And he has given this school a lot of pride, a standard that was set with him being here since August of 2016.
Well, let me start out and let you know for sure I love Mack Rhodes. I mean, I absolutely love that guy. And when he came in, we kind of fought that fight together. We were pretty much in lockstep, with trying to make Baylor the best Baylor could be during a tough time. And I will tell you this, one of my biggest disappointments in my coaching career was not being able to stay at Baylor with the wonderful people at Baylor, with those kids, and with Mack Rhodes. That's one thing in my career. If I could go back and have the opportunity to be a football coach for Mack Rhodes and be at Baylor University, that would be the highlight of my career. The problem was I butted heads so much with the press and supported Baylor at every turn. And, there was a lot of negativity toward Baylor at that time. And all I found at Baylor were wonderful people, from the administration through the coaches and the kids. It was just Holly and I just had a wonderful, wonderful experience at Baylor. And while I didn't feel like I could stay, I feel like they needed somebody new to come in that I told Matt Rule, I took all the bullets for you, dude. all you got to do is come in and coach. But I think Mack Rhodes is, if there's a better athletic director in the whole country, I can't imagine who it would be.
I'm going to say this, Jim, and I don't know if I've told you this before, but at Big 12 Media Days in July, when you did take over, how you were grilled and the questions that you were asked and some of the things that were written about some of the things that you meant from the heart was one of the most despicable displays of anything I've ever seen in media. because it was almost as if you were the one that they took their anger out on because of whatever the story was at the time.
Well, and that was okay. I mean, when I got to Baylor, I mean, if there's anybody in the world that I love better than Grant Teaff and Donnell too, but Grant from a football standpoint, there's nobody I love better than Grant Teaff. And when he asked me to come and help Baylor, if Baylor was Grant Teaff's school, I knew it had to be great. And when I came in, honestly, Smokey, I found nobody there that I felt like would have done the things that everybody was accusing Baylor of. And they wanted to throw a blanket over the whole university. They wanted to say everybody at Baylor's bad. And, we had some kids that didn't do the right thing, and we had some people that didn't really deal with it in the right way. But I will tell you that we found Baylor to just be a wonderful, wonderful place, and everywhere we turned. And so when they started attacking Baylor, I wasn't putting up with it because I was seeing it from the inside. They were seeing it from the outside. And the other thing you got to remember, a lot of the people that were attacking Baylor it was in their self-interest because it was it was the hometown paper of a rival. And the rivals wanted to bring Baylor down because Baylor had been so successful on the field. They wanted to do everything they could to bring Baylor down. And the press wanted to throw a blanket over Baylor. And I tried to, let everybody know. Some of my best friends are writers and sports writers and sports broadcasters. Some of my very best friends are. So it would be no different if I said, okay, let's throw a blanket over the press. Let's say the press is dishonest and the press is self-serving, and that would not be fair. But for them to want to throw a blanket over Baylor, I wasn't putting up with it.
Yeah, and those in the press, a lot of us were so sensitive we would turn into a fetal position if that was turned around and thrown like a boomerang. All right, we took you off the golf course. Did you play this morning instead?
I thought this would be a great day for you and I to talk because it's raining today.
Okay. Here we go. All right. Hey, Jim.
So what you're telling us, Coach, is the next time we want to have you on, we just need to check the weather in Georgia for that week. Yeah. Then the rainy day, we can grab you.
You know better. It's always great to talk with you guys. It's fantastic. I miss my time at Baylor. Holly does too. I really and truly, we feel like in our heart that our time at Baylor with those kids and those coaches and what we were able to accomplish by the end of the year, we feel as good about that as anything we've been a part of in coaching, and just have a love, a true love for Baylor University.
On the chat room, Jim, and thanks for your time. Jim Grobe, former Baylor coach. The number of things. Jim Grobe is always a friend of Marshall. Jim Grobe, born in Huntington. I love that man. Jim Grobe saved Baylor football. Bingo Jim with the truth bomb. I mean, people love you, too, for what you did in the time you were here. Thank you so much for your time, as always, and we appreciate it.
Blessed to have you as a friend, big boy. Y'all be good.
That's Jim Grobe, former Wake Forest and Baylor football coach, who came in during all hell breaking loose in the year of 2016.
The all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock. The beautiful, luxurious, elegant third-row seating carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. First responders get an extra $500. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $2,400 or 0% for 72 months. It's the Big Finish sales event now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
There are many people who still believe that there should be something that honors and remembers what Jim Grobe did during his time at Baylor, during a tumultuous time. And there are still some that think that they could have been better and that Jim Grobe didn't do enough. And if anyone thinks that way, then I'd love to see you in those shoes of what he stepped into. Basically, a tremendous, highly sensitive, emotional time with the change. The Pepper Hamilton, Art Briles gone, the staff remains. But the way they ended that year is still amazing. Jim Grobe and Baylor 7-6 in 2016. And then, of course, the coaching changed. Matt Rule and his staff were on campus late in the year. Just like Lincoln Riley at USC, and some of his staff are on campus as they're wrapping up USC as they're preparing for what they're doing under the interim coach and others on staff. Now, Baylor football's in the Big 12 championship game. They win it this time. They were in it in 2019. They lost to Oklahoma in a dramatic game. They won it outright in 2013, and also they were co-champions with TCU because of the overall record, beating TCU head-to-head 61-58. What does it say? And we've asked Grant Taft this. We've asked Jim Grobe this. We've asked everybody this. Now I ask you guys this. What does it say about Baylor? Because this could have been one of those things. In fact, I remember a parent of a player who transferred after Art Briles was fired, who said Baylor would not be relevant in football for at least another 10 years, almost comparing it to SMU and the death penalty. What does it say that here they are? And they've already bounced back with Grobe. They bounced back at the end of Grobe. They bounced back with Matt Rule. And then now what they've done with Dave Aranda.
Well, I think it says that they're following this is the impenetrable college athletics code. If the president, athletic director, and head coach of whatever program you're talking about, and for this argument it's football, are in lockstep in what their goals are, then you will be successful to at least some degree. Now, not everybody can win national titles, but if you want to be consistently successful, the biggest thing that you can do is have the president, athletic director, and head coach of the program in line together. There are so many other things that people say about college athletics that are important to location and this and that and the other thing. The most important thing that comes down to it is those three people, your leaders, in line and all have the same idea about where the program is going. And Baylor has that. Maybe for even with the success they had with Ken Starr and Ian McCaw, they have it much more now with Lyndon Livingstone, Mack Rhoades, and Dave Aranda. Those three are swimming in the same direction.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just, I don't really like talking about it like it's some feel-good thing because where it stems from was not feel-good at all. So, like, when it's, it's so inspiring. It's inspiring in a way, but it's also, it should never have been that way. I feel weird in talking about it like it's some triumphant story because it should never have been, that way to begin with. But in terms of some, people that came on board when things were really bad and it was miserable to be around, the football program in any shape or form or to be, really in Waco for a stretch of period because that was all that was talked about and you could just feel it in the air for, months and months. Just there's eerie feeling around town of like, what's going on, like what in the hell's going on here? And nobody knew what was going on and everybody was searching for answers and it was just really strange. And then, they made the Mack Rhoades hire and that was the turning point for everything as he came in and he had a vision and a plan and he made some good hires and made some changes that were for the better. And I know some will argue for the worse, when it comes to like tailgating or whatever. But, in general, really hard to argue with the results, even though I still see like the occasional person who tries to, and it doesn't make any sense at this point. You just look like a crazy person, quite frankly. But he was a starting point, and then the hire of Matt Rhule, which eventually led to Dave Aranda. Obviously, the hire of President Livingstone was not Mack Rhoades' call, but those who did make that call obviously made a very good selection because here they are, and she's been around for 3 years, 4 years now, 4 years, I guess, at this point, and they're an R1 institution now, and they've got, multiple championships and all that. So, it's top on down, but it all started with Mack Rhoades. That's where it started, and then it all stemmed from there, his vision, and then that aligning, using that word again, with, obviously Matt Rhule and Dave Aranda, but mostly aligning with President Livingstone. Yeah, that's going back to what Paul said. It's all about that leadership group.
What did Jeff Howe, we got to wrap it up for the next hour, and Scott Drew will join us as they, again, won Monday night against Alcorn State, plus Todd Dodge, who retired after a 7th state title at 4:30. Jeff Howe, who covers Texas, said one of the things that he feels like is the difference now is not Sarkisian. It's not maybe the fact that they have Quinn Ewers or they had a nice recruiting class at the end of the NIL and all that. It's they might have kind of like a spine down the middle of your spine. Your spine is aligned when it comes to a president, a board, whatever, and then, of course, AD and football coach, and that's where Baylor has been, even through it all.
Just to throw out an example, DeLoss Dodds was in line. He was the guy running the thing. Was Steve Patterson in line with anybody? No. He was driving his own boat, and that's the biggest difference.
And you could screw it up by getting the wrong president or the wrong AD or the wrong football coach. Any of those three are out of whack, and you never know. You might still win despite that. When we come back, Baylor, the men's basketball team unbeaten, first time since those great teams at UNLV back in 90 and 91, the defending champions to start the year at 10-0 and 8 or more points, now 11-0 with 8 or more point victories. Scott Drew, next on the culture of Baylor men's basketball. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Jay from Pickup Outfitters here with your holiday gift-giving guide. So it seems the air fryer is an, air quotes, hot Christmas gift this year. An air fryer? Come on, really? First, an air fryer is not a real fryer. It has no grease. It's a mini convection oven. And you probably already have one of those in your house. So you're just wasting money on something that's not even real. You know what is real? A grill guard. It's made of real steel and it protects the truck of someone you love. And you can get one for that special person on your Christmas list at Pickup Outfitters. So avoid common Christmas gift mistakes like house slippers, a beard, nose, ear, hair, and eyebrow trimmer. Or a man purse? You better not. Give a Christmas gift that says, I love you. A grill guard, a toolbox, running boards, and other great gifts at Pickup Outfitters. You can even get a gift certificate to let them pick out whatever they want. Pickup Outfitters is the Christmas gift headquarters. 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
The Big Finish sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels. The new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab has values up to $6,750 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 bonus cash. First responders get an extra $500. Ram, the winner of the prestigious J.D. Powers Initial Quality. The Big Finish sales event is now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Cryer from the corner. And it rattles home.
Wow. What a TO, baby.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now, here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Baylor men's basketball coach, national championship head coach Scott Drew. What a start for Baylor after the win on Saturday night against Oregon. You know, I asked you this in the post game, and no, I had not been sleeping, but I was wearing a T-shirt. So tough because you guys closed the gap at the end of the half, and it gave you that kind of surge. And then here comes what I call that defensive boa constrictor. I mentioned, how does it work? Is that just now the culture of your team? You just know if you just keep grinding, things will happen?
I like that. What was that? The defensive boa constrictor?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to. Yeah. Maybe you need to coin that, patent it, and start making some revenue off that.
I think I'll use that. Yeah. Hashtag boa constrictor. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Well, I think a couple things. One, our players do a great job when we make adjustments in adjusting to it. Number two, you look at our depth, and our depth normally wears people down. And then number three. Whenever you're ranked number one, you're playing on the road. The other team is so fired up and excited at the beginning of the game, and as time wears on, then they return usually back to normal. And you look at Oregon, I thought they really, the first 10 minutes were on fire and played a tremendous game, and then that last 8 minutes of the half, we were able to kind of establish some rhythm and get back to what Baylor basketball is about, and that is good defense and good shot selection, getting stops, getting out in transition.
You've done all of this. You can't start the year any better. You've won every game.
Yeah.
You've won every game by 8 points or more. It's a great start.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guard, and how have you guarded against complacency?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to have players that are about the right things, and they're about the process. They're about each and every day getting better and trying to win the last game. And if they understand the big picture, they don't get caught up with the here and now. And we always say a lot of people can handle failure because a lot more go through failure than success, but it's even harder to handle success. And you look at, hence that's why no one's won a game on the road being number one this year so far. So I think just making them aware of all that, and the biggest thing is having upperclassmen and people on your team that do a great job in conveying that to the younger guys, because at the end of the day, players listen to players more than they do coaches, and making sure that the upperclassmen are stating and guiding the ship the way the coaches want it guided, and they do a great job of that.
So your bigs, and I mentioned even the young guys that play so well defensively on the perimeter, you can switch them around. No one can isolate, it seems like, on anybody. When you're recruiting now, is that just a must that you have to have those type of players, that they have to be those type of players?
Well, we've always tried to adjust whatever style we play based on the personnel we have. So, for instance, we recruited Zach Eddy and at Purdue, and if he would have been a part of our program, maybe if he's in the game, you're looking at a different ball screen defense. Mm-hmm. So I think you'll always adapt what you do based on the personnel. The big thing is finding people that fit your culture, fit your program, people you want to coach that will help your program, and then that's on us coaches to make sure we put them in the best light possible.
So you get to 400 wins, and in typical Scott Drew, you talked about how it's a team or program accomplishment, and I get that. I know that it takes more than just you, but you're the one that started this, along with many others who have been with you from start to finish. When you started in coaching, like the first win, I'm sure is huge, and maybe the 100th. Did you ever expect to be able to get to 400 or maybe 800 or anything like that?
I honestly never really put much stock into it, and it's kind of like opening in a new restaurant or business. You were just so busy and you're grinding. You're really not thinking of 200, 300, 400 wins, and I love how we approach it. And those are team awards, team honors. I mean, Player of the Year. Those awards don't go to the last place team, and wins aren't given unless you have great players, great staff, administration, fan support. For us coaches, our wives and families that sacrifice a lot. So we really understand that all those are team honors and team awards. And again, I think the older I get, the more appreciative I am of just all the sacrifices everyone's made to help this program get to where it's at. And that includes you staying up late at night in T-shirts and reporting on the Baylor Bears.
Hey, well, absolutely. James Akinjo, he's obviously playing at a high level. There are times, like, again, I'm not going to break down it, but there was a time I think you had a 2-on-1. He was hot. He pulled up and tried to hit a 3, didn't go in, but he really has become that straw that can stir the drink. Is he someone that's maturing right in front of your eyes from when he first started, getting used to those around him and them getting used to him?
Most definitely. he's somebody that each and every day knows more and more what the coaching staff wants, and then getting adjusted to his teammates, where they want the ball passed, when they want when they want it passed. Knowing who's hot, who's not. Knowing as a point guard, you're more than it's like a quarterback. You got to know if you got a receiver that hadn't had a touch and starting to get frustrated. You got to give him a look, and different things like that to encourage your teammates.
Would you rather him get maybe more to the rim, or is he going to be more of the perimeter type? He had a couple of shots off the screens on Saturday. Is that something you think comes with because of his quickness to get to the rim? He's great at distributing, like the dunk to Kendall, that kind of spark you guys. Is that something you think he'll get to be able to do more?
Well, he led the Pac-12 in assists, so he's definitely capable of facilitating. He's done a great job with us. He leads us in assists. At the same time, I think he averaged 16 a game in the Pac-12, and he scored at Georgetown. And we've had scoring point guards throughout our career you look at Pierre Jackson, Aaron Bruce, Tweety Carter, Curtis Gerald's, on and on and on. So it's knowing the more you play with your team, that balance. I thought second half he gave us a great lift, gave us a great start. But in the first half, Adam Flagler was going, and I thought the team did a great job feeding and looking at him. So it's a balance. I think James has gotten better at finishing at the rim. His left hand's gotten better. But at the end of the day, he is someone that's more than capable of knocking down the 3-point shot. Shot a good percentage at Arizona. And one thing, talking to Coach Miller, he said as the year goes on, he shoots better. And I think James will do that for us. He'll continue to improve his shooting percentage as he becomes more and more comfortable with things. Now, we all know the Big 12, 7 of the top 25 teams defensively come from the Big 12, so it's not like things get easier when you get into conference play. But you have to have players when the plays break down and after you run through your progressions. It's like a quarterback. Everybody's covered. What play can you make now? And that's where you got to have players that can get themselves shots and their teammates shots when everything breaks down.
Tell me if I'm being
and he can do that.
Yeah, no, he seems to be able to and has. Tell me if I'm being too critical. And the free throw shooting from last year, at times it seemed like you guys would kind of get into a rut, but you always won, and you made them down the stretch when they mattered. What's more important, overall team free throw shooting or free throws in the clutch?
Well, they all matter, but definitely in the clutch when it's a one-possession game, those seem to keep you up a little later at night than when you're up 12 and miss a free throw. So with us, you look at it, again, first road game in 2 years where there's fans. And I know it was a Saturday night. It was a break night. They didn't have students, but they still had about 8,000 there. And that's something different. You look at last year on the road, there was 10% fans everywhere, except for Tech, and I don't know how they count, but that was a pretty packed house. So my point with that is it takes getting used to when there's 10% versus 8,000 fans in the stands, and that's just a natural progression. And I think that's why it's so tough to win on the road in college basketball, and especially the first couple times you go on the road and you're not used to it.
Scott, last thing. Here comes this. A handful of games. Tennessee and Memphis canceled. Penny Hardaway mentioned like 90% of his team was vaccinated, but they had to cancel their game. How are you guys? Is that something that's become much more front and center again, that you have to deal with all of that again?
Yeah, unfortunately, everybody's dealing with it. And when the first couple games got canceled, it was like you thought, what's going on? And then now with so many, you're like, okay, we're going to have to make sure when we come back from break, we do everything we can to protect our guys. And obviously, our team has done a great job and to thus far in the season, not missing any games, and Dave Snyder does a great job, and Charlie Melton making sure our guys are doing what they need to do to be safe, and our players want to play games. And I won't go into how many have been vaccinated, but I mean everybody's takes it very serious, and that's why we haven't missed games thus far. Doesn't make it perfect, but hopefully each and every night you play, it's a blessing, and it brings that back to you. And our guys are really educated on that, and thus we've been successful the last couple of years.
Baylor, Alcorn State tonight at the Farrell Center. Scott Drew, thanks for your time, Coach.
Hey, appreciate you, and with all the Baylor fans out there traveling over the holidays, you be safe, and thank you for all that you do for Baylor Athletics. Merry Christmas to y'all.
Sikkim 365 Radio.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash for trade. TTL Extra. See deal for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Car. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Car. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Car today.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads, crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We're now joined by John Machota, theathletic.com, on the Cowboys. Cowboys, of course, now on the cusp of what they can to clinch an NFC East Division title. Of course, playoff bound basically as well after their win against the Giants. And now Washington again. John, it's hard to even discuss them because we don't know who they are, because they still have to play a game. And then who knows who they are. But the schedule that they hit the NFC East backloaded, sometimes that can be difficult. It could have ever been set up better for the Cowboys with them getting better and healthier than everybody else is getting worse?
It really couldn't. And it's funny because you mentioned that coming off of this, this Giants game where you're kind of like everyone, you're happy if you're a Cowboys fan and the team gets a win, and obviously the players are happy and all that. The biggest win out of that game might be that they came out without any injuries. That so rarely happens that you don't have anyone injured in a game. So you were able to take care of business. Of course, you wish that the offense would have looked better than it did, but you take care of business against a divisional rival, and you don't have any injuries. So obviously, COVID is always a factor, but they get out of that game, pretty healthy, and all of a sudden you have Washington, Philadelphia, who they have a game tonight. The chance that Washington gets out without any injuries and everybody's healthy, that's rare alone, let alone the fact that it's a Tuesday night and they're going to have to play again, travel to Dallas and play Sunday night. It's clearly in the Cowboys' favor.
John, coming out of the Giants game, the offense looked a little less rocky. I don't want to say smoother. It looked a little less rocky. What do you attribute that to?
Yeah. Don't go too far with this, okay? we can't say that they look great. No, it kind of goes back to this, and I know it's kind of simplistic to say, but every time they're asked about it, they keep saying the same thing, and it's just the way the defense are playing them. They're going a lot more too high safety. Having a guy back there so that they can't take the top off the defense. They can't have the big plays, and you see that against the Giants team that they should be able to have big plays against. There's not a pass play over 19 yards, and that's ridiculous. If you look back early in the season, they were routinely having 30, 40-yard pass plays in multiple games, and then this game, 19 yards the furthest pass play against Washington, I believe it was 24. Against Kansas City, it was only 19 yards. Like, the big plays aren't there. Dak's average per attempt is as low as it's been throughout his career. And it all just doesn't make sense because this is finally when they're getting healthy and you have all of those top receivers. It's kind of like one of those things where you're like, if this is really the issue, then why do teams even invest heavily in wide receiver? Because if you can have three guys capable of being number ones that are healthy like the Cowboys do, and they can't beat a coverage with two deep safeties against teams like the Giants and Washington. It's one thing if it's a team that's like loaded on defense, like, and you can't beat those teams to get big plays. Like it doesn't seem, it leaves you scratching your head. It doesn't seem like this should even be possible in the NFL when you have an MVP caliber quarterback and you have the receiving options that he has and they're healthy late in the season. I don't know. The only thing that they got going for them is that they could have some games that don't mean much in the box score to end out this regular season, and that gives them more chances to get the offense back on track.
It's not their fault that they play the schedule they play, and sometimes it can flip around on you and just batter you in the face because of who you play. And even the Cardinals now, a game that with Kyler Murray and what he always has done at AT&T Stadium as a player, college, high school, pros, it's not their fault, but you want to win, and they're going to win, and they're going to end up with they might end up with the number 1 or 2 seed the way things are going. But if they had played, let's say, in the last 4 games, 5 games, teams like the Packers, teams like perhaps the Rams, and I know that they have their hickeys, someone like that, what do you expect they would have done?
It seems crazy to even say something this foolish, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think the offense would have played better. I do think that there is something mentally with the fact that these guys know that they're the superior team going out there for most of these weeks outside of the Kansas City game, which, obviously they didn't have Amari Cooper because of COVID and they only had CeeDee Lamb for the first half and that offense didn't look good in that game. But that's really the only formidable foe that they've faced. There's been a lot of like, well, if we show up, we can win this game. And that obviously bit them against Denver. They've gotten to the point where now, they're finishing these teams off, so they're winning the games. But there isn't a team that they've played recently that is on the level of those teams that they're going to see in the playoffs. And there's a part of me that wonders if it's just a small thing, like being just a little bit more locked in on a route or just having a little bit more something on a throw that is just a little bit more precise because hey, we're only going to get 20 possessions because this team's damn good too. So we better make the most out of every single one of these. Like, just really zone in and focus on the little things, because that's the stuff that I think is tough. It's just, it's last game. It's CeeDee Lamb on a couple of these balls. It's like, putting out one hand instead of trying to catch it with two, and then catching dropping the one across the middle when he did use two hands. That you're just like, I don't know that they'll happen against the really good teams. It could, but there's a part of me that thinks that there also could be a group that's more focused, and that shouldn't happen for professional athletes that are being paid the way they are. They should be locked in for all these games. But there's just that nature where I kind of think, like, as much as I see on Twitter and I hear from Cowboys fans how down they are about the offense, all I say is I look across the rest of the league. I see Godwin go down. I see Hopkins go down. I'm just like, if you can get to the postseason healthy, just complete that and just see what happens in the postseason if you're the by far healthiest team, because that's what the Cowboys are right now.
John, the defense is looking, granted, you mentioned they're not playing, world beaters, but the defense is looking really, really, really good. And I keep going back to, in my mind, there was a time where they could have gotten TJ Watt and took Taco Charlton. And I think Jason Garrett, his coaching staff, paid for that ultimately with their jobs, because the defense was never really able to grow because they didn't have a true playmaker. Now they have Micah Parsons. And it seems to maybe have wiped off, at least to me, the regret they would have had of not getting in the TJ Watt business.
I completely agree. And then it's crazy to think that even happened, but it's just, you look at this last decade, like how many impact defensive players have they really drafted? There just haven't been many. And there has been none that have been close to Micah Parsons. The last time they've had someone like that is Demarcus Ware. And so to get him in a draft that it was very clear they didn't even want to go in that direction. They really wanted the corner. They wanted a corner to put opposite of Trayvon Diggs. And that doesn't happen, and you're forced to go really to your plan C. And your plan C ends up being incredibly better than what you would have done with your plan A, even if you picked at 6. Because I do believe if they were picking at 6 or 7, they wouldn't have taken Micah Parsons there. They would have taken one of those corners. And imagine just how bad of a season you would have had to have a top 6 pick, even though they were close to doing that. I guess luck just plays a little bit of a role in it. But yeah, there's no question. I think I want to say it was J-Ron Kerr said the other day, he said that he compared Micah, because you mentioned TJ Watt, it made me think of this. He's like, Micah Parsons is like TJ Watt rushing off the edge and Bobby Wagner playing linebacker, all in one player. Like, it's just crazy to even think about that. That, again, we were talking earlier about the injuries. Like, even if a guy was to go down for them, let's say they lost Randy Gregory, like in the second half of a game, or you lost Demarcus Lawrence in the second half of the game or something like that, Dan Quinn can literally just take Micah Parsons from linebacker and then just put him at edge. And you don't think that there's going to be very much drop-off, if any drop-off at all. It's so rare to have a player like that. It would just be fascinating to go back to that draft and just see if you could do it over right now. Would he even make it to the 5th pick? I mean, after the quarterbacks go, I think he would be. He's just such a game changer in this NFL style that teams play today. He's like the perfect thing that you could possibly want.
John, sticking with the feel-good vibes on the defense, Demarcus Lawrence had a monster game. I know he's still kind of soaking in that performance this past weekend. Can you just talk about him a little bit? And obviously, who could have ever have thought that a bet between he and Dak over, the offense versus the defense? I mean, who would have bet on the defense in any scenario, a month ago, maybe a month ago, but I mean, even then kind of a stretch, but certainly not during the offseason would you have bet too much on this defense versus this Cowboys offense, and yet here we are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there were times where, Demarcus Lawrence, going back to his rookie year in 2014, and then there were obviously some other years between then and now where, led to him getting the big contract, where he was kind of like the Micah Parsons, where this is going to be the guy that can wreck a game for you. But he was by himself. There wasn't really a Randy Gregory, and there wasn't a Micah Parsons to play alongside him so that he could get singled up and get more chances to make these game-changing plays. And that's what he's getting right now. And that's what he got against the Giants. And I mean, I don't think there's any coincidence that he's been back for 3 games, and all 3 games they have 4 takeaways. Like, he causes problems, That's the thing. Like, so many of these teams have I shouldn't even say so many. Very few teams have a game wrecker. The Cowboys have potentially 3 or 4 now on their defense, And that's just it's just fascinating to see from my perspective from covering this team for the last 10 years, because you just feel like every year it's offense first. Because see, I didn't move down here in until 2010, so I missed that like 2009 defense, which is probably their last elite one compared to this year. So this is by far the best one I've seen. Demarcus said after a game, it's the best one that he's played on, certainly. And so because of all those other moving pieces, they're allowing Demarcus Lawrence to really be at his best, because he doesn't have to worry about a lot of the other things he was getting before as the clear-cut game record that teams had to circle and stop. Now he has the freedom to kind of do his own thing. And like you said after the game, like he doesn't think that there's anybody in the NFL that's going to stop him one-on-one. And it probably isn't.
John, we now, for this season, can take Cowboys creating turnovers for granted, as for years. The whole time that you've been here, since 2010, it's been, you can go weeks, months. Like, I remember one time they went 2.5 months between interceptions. I mean, like, how does that happen to go from that to this?
Well, Trayvon Diggs is obviously the ringleader of that. I mean, that's the key right there. I mean, to get a guy like Trayvon Diggs, they just didn't have that guy. Like, Byron Jones is a very good corner, but Byron Jones just wasn't the guy that Trayvon Diggs is in terms of taking the ball, getting his hands on the ball, and being the guy. See, that's the thing with Byron Jones. A lot of times what Rod Marinelli and several other coaches, Chris Richard and the likes, would keep him on one side of the field, whereas Trayvon Diggs moves with the other team's best receiver. And so it's like, you really can't not throw at him. You're going to have to throw at him. He's going to give up yards. He's going to give up plays. But the game-changing plays he makes just far, far exceed any of the negative ones. And so he's where it starts. But then again, how great of opportunities is he getting if there's no pass rush? If Trayvon Diggs is a team that was with the team that doesn't have any pass rush, is he getting all these opportunities? Probably not. So you have to give credit to the guys up front to be getting there. And then just, there's just so many plays where the quarterback's getting hit that are happening now with this team that you just hadn't seen in previous years. The Demarcus Lawrence play that got everything started in New York that turned into the Jordan Lewis interception. Like, there's just so many of those happening now that you just didn't see in the past. And frankly, let's just be honest, what it comes down to is talent. And they just weren't as talented as they are now. And then you kind of fill in the gaps with some bargains in free agency that certainly we didn't expect to have the impact that they've had. And the face of that is J-Ron Kearse. Nobody would have thought that he would have been as impactful as he has been. And then you see kind of Malik Hooker kind of coming along, coming off that Achilles last year, when he's at his best, that he is a first-round talent. He's starting to play better. Like, they've got the talent in their key areas, and it's just like guys around them are stepping up. And then last but not least, and I think this might be the biggest one of them all, Dan Quinn's putting them in the right spots to be successful. I mean, I find it hard to believe watching their defense last year that they would have this exact same success if they wouldn't have gotten Dan Quinn. Like, you can make the argument that Dan Quinn has been the most important offseason acquisition for a team. I was trying to think of this earlier, and all I could come up with is obviously the Matthew Stafford trade if the Rams were to go on and win a championship. I might be missing something, but you can put Dan Quinn in that conversation with all of them.
I can't agree more. In fact, I brought this up even maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, and Shereen Williams tweeted at me, well, there is an Assistant Coach of the Year award, and I know that, but I think he's the Coach of the Year, perhaps across the board. All right, one little note. I thought this was interesting. You're talking about the talent that they could have had and the talent that they do have. And one of the things, I'm watching the Bears in that game with Minnesota last night, which was ugly and chippy and all that, and Robert Quinn is getting after the quarterback to a point where he's putting up huge numbers for the Bears, and he was a part of this defense at one point. The personnel department for the Cowboys, they've missed on some, but they have been not perfect by any means, but my goodness, have they made some moves in the last 2 to 3 years to set, even 4 or 5 years to set up where they are today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was thinking about that the other day, just on the draft side alone. How many of these players are guys that they drafted? I mean, the majority of their impact players, of course, like I said, you have a J-Ron Kearse sprinkled in there. But on offense, you look at that offensive line, all of it is drafted. Lyle Collins was signed after the draft, but all of the key important pieces drafted, obviously quarterback, running back, the wide receivers, other than Amari that they signed, like they've done very well in the draft, and that's just, you can't expect that to always happen because like we were just talking about with the Taco Charlton thing, it's very easy to be looking for an edge rusher and take Taco Charlton, and then you look back on it and you're like, wow, if we just would have taken TJ Watt, like how different is everything that happened with this team. And the big thing is that they're going to have to continue to, and I focus on the draft because with Dak's contract, Demarcus Lawrence, some of the other guys that they've paid, Zach Martin and them, they're not going to ever be a big time player in free agency. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And so how they're going to be able to do it is it's going to have to be through the draft. And so when you see them finding Micah Parsons outside the top 10, I think CeeDee Lamb back at 17 and Trayvon Diggs at 51, Osa Odighizuwa in the third round, and you know what, to be honest, the guy that's forgotten about that, who knows where Jabril Cox is right now if he doesn't get hurt, because it's not like Keanu O'Neal and Leighton Vander Esch are running away with that other linebacker spot. If everything kept trending in the right direction, who knows? Jabril Cox could be starting right now. Obviously, the knee injury set him back, and he's out for the year. But the draft has been huge, and obviously, the person that deserves all the credit for that is Will McClay, because he's the one quarterbacking all of it. So, a ton of credit deserves to go to Will McClay for sure.
John, thank you. Cowboys and Redskins Sunday night. Cowboys sit back and enjoy, and as you lick any wounds that they have and get a little bit better, healthier, and just avoid all the issues that are starting to show up again with COVID. John, appreciate your time from theathletic.com and the Cowboys. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman, with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
When we began the Texas High School Football Statewide podcast earlier this year, my first guest was Todd Dodge. That's a no-brainer. They had won back-to-back titles at Westlake. He had won 6 in his career, also at South Lake Carroll. His story of what he's meant to high school football and college football and football in general. And he wrapped up another one Saturday with a tough come-from-behind win against Geyer. Todd Dodge joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoke. Can you retire? Can you really like truly get away from football?
I don't know yet, Smoke. I left the Dallas area this morning. Liz and I stayed over extra day. Actually, I am talking to y'all from the great city of Waco, Texas, right now. We're on I-35 headed down the freeway. I don't know yet. I'm going to go support the Westlake Chaparrals and Tony Salazar. I'm going to go support the South Lake Carroll Dragons and my son Riley. I'm going to do some my quarterback training stuff and my camps, and see if that will scratch the itch for a year or so.
This was obviously a special season, as you knew going in. You had this plan. This wasn't something you kind of concocted in the middle. Did it make it different knowing that there was some finality to this? Like every game you coached, there was the potential that this could be the last one.
Absolutely. I told my team probably 2 weeks before training camp started that I would be retiring afterwards, and I just vowed to them that I would not wish any of it away, that we would all soak it in together. I couldn't have had a better last year with any other group of kids. They absolutely just soak in everything. They love the game of football. This coaching staff is so much fun. They're young and they're hungry, and it was time for me though. Elizabeth and I, we said we'd be there 6 years, and it lasted 8. And, I never in my wildest dreams would think that it would end up the same way it did at South Lake Carroll with a 3-peat.
Coach, let's talk about that 3-peat, 40-21 over Geyer. I mean, you beat some really good teams to get to this point, but just on Saturday night to have it come to a close the way that it did, no, it was tough. Geyer hung around there for a little while before you guys broke it open, but just your thoughts on how it did unfold for you on Saturday.
Well, as I told our players going into the week, this is a very, very talented football team that we're going to play, and you wouldn't expect anything different in the state championship game. They were 14-1 coming in. I told our team, I said, I want to tell you what they're hearing. They're hearing that from all across the state, they're hearing that they don't stand a chance, that they're going to get wiped out, blah, 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 all that. And I said, don't let that fool us. These guys will come out and play, and they came out and played, and we didn't play real well early. But when it was all said and done, I was really kind of glad that we faced some adversity, and we really had not that we wished it on ourselves as the season went over. We were winning by big margins. We were having big halftime leads. We'd never trailed in a game until the first quarter of this state championship game. And so at halftime really challenged our players and said, y'all can be remembered as a team in Westlake Hills and in the state of Texas that is one of the greatest of all times, or y'all can be remembered as a team that just kind of choked their chili. in the face of adversity. I said, y'all got you got to kind of, decide what y'all want to do, and they absolutely answered the bell.
In your post-game interview, you mentioned how you want to spend as much time as you can with your, I think you said 83-year-old mother. And I know that almost every time I ever talk to you, you're always driving across country or across the state of Texas to go see her, to move her. Give me an idea about your mother and how she has been the ultimate when it comes to being a coach's wife and a son's grandmother as well.
My mother, Jean Dodge, has been my, biggest supporter from the time I was a little boy. My daddy was a Methodist preacher, and so she and all of us traveled around and got transferred about every 4 years. But now as it's coming to a close, there's that cycle of life, the season of life, and and she is, there's dementia starting to set in, and she still knows who I am, and I want to be able to spend as much time with her. And then I have my wife, Elizabeth, who, she was in the industry before I was. She grew up a coach's kid. So I've had a wonderful mother, and then I've had a wonderful wife for the last 36 years. So it's been one hell of a deal.
Todd, was this year as emotional as you've ever had when it comes to both on the field because you knew this was it, and because of the standard, the expectations, but also because of the unfortunate stories, of course, of Jackson Coker and Jake Ellinger along the way?
Yes, it has been, and probably because of Jake and Jackson, I just those two young men personally, I was very close to. They were tremendous leaders in our program, but the Ellinger family is very special to me. The Coker family is very special to me, and so I had a one-on-one special relationship with each one of those young men, and to have to, during the spring of 2021, to have to, speak at the funeral of Jackson Coker in March, and then Jake Ellinger in late April was something that was, it took a big toll on me, and it took a big toll on our program. There was a tremendous amount of sadness in our program, and I just wanted to make sure that we're going to do an award called the Jake and Jackson 3616 Fighting Heart Award. And we're going to do that at our banquet come January, and I just want to make sure that while it was on my watch, and I know Tony will continue this, but is that no one ever forgets who those two young men were. They were so special to our program, such impactful football players, but even more impactful human beings.
Todd, how much will you be able to enjoy watching Riley coach? I mean, the last time you really get to go see him, you had to play against him, so you don't really want to. You don't do that anymore. But you'll get to actually see and watch him grow in the coaching ranks.
Oh, I just can't wait. I mean, I Smoke, I don't know that I've got could have a better deal. I've got my biological son that's coaching at South Lake Carroll, where I was, won our last 3 state championships and had a great time there. And then I've got Tony Salazar, who is like a son to me. He's going to be coaching at Westlake. So I've got the best of both worlds. I can go support both of those men and their programs and watch them grow as coaches, and be around my grandkids. And so, and 2 programs that I absolutely love and have a lot invested in.
Todd, Brian Bell today, who led China Spring to a state championship in 4A Division II. His brother, Sean, now at Baylor, and, of course, Mark, a long-time, very successful coach for many years at China Spring. He took a job at Baylor as an analyst. He's a young coach. He just won a state title in his 4th year as a head coach. He had been on his father's staff for just a little bit, of course, played at Sam Houston State. For a young coach like that, when they get that opportunity as an analyst in this day and age, you went to college and tried it at North Texas. You'd been in college before, even before then. What about that opportunity for such a young coach at this moment when he's just won it all?
I tell you what, I just, for Brian, first of all, congratulations. I know everybody here in the Waco area is excited for China Springs. I recruited Brian back when I was the head coach at the University of North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a fabulous player. And it doesn't surprise me that he's had the success that he's had. And what an awesome thing for him to win one so early. But I can tell you, I was a part of one the first year that I was in coaching when I was 23 years old at Rockwall, Texas. I was a quarterback coach, and we got to the state championship, got beat in the finals, and it took me about 15 years to get back to one. And I tell you what, you can't ever take them for granted because they are hard to come by. And so to Brian, what you've done, don't ever take it for granted, because what you've done is really, really hard to do.
You've had an amazing impact on the game that you love so much in many ways, as a head coach, as a player when you were at Port Arthur Jefferson and played for a state championship, and then, of course, what you've done ever since. How much has this game meant to you?
I absolutely, it means everything in my life. I love being a Texan. I love being a Texas high school football coach. I love Texas high school football. I mean, I tell our players all the time to thank the good Lord every day that their parents landed them in the great state of Texas so they get to take part in something that it doesn't make us any better than anybody else or any more special than anybody else, but what we choose to do as men and as players, it's the most important thing going in our state. Texas high school football is more attended than professional football or college football in our state, and it's just one of those deals. Just take, this past weekend, watching all of those state championship games with all that attendance, and so for that, it's been almost 50 years now since I first, when I was 6 years old, I was the ball boy for the Garrison Bulldogs,
mm-hmm.
And ever since then, there's not 1 year gone by that I haven't been somehow involved in the game of football.
Mouse Davis, Hal Mummy, Todd Dodge, your name in that conversation as well?
I don't think so. I don't know. So those guys are something special. I'll leave that up to someone else, but it sure is nice to even be mentioned with those guys.
But you obviously were touched by them, correct?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The run and shoot in 1989 when we put the spread offense in at McKinney. That's what it was. It was a combination between the run and shoot and the University of Miami's zone running scheme and 3 and 5 step drop back. It's a little hybrid between the three, and it's kind of all morphed as the years have gone on. So. But my absolute passion in this is coaching quarterbacks, and helping them be the best, the best players and the best leaders that they can be.
And you've done that. You've done that camp. You've been able to do that throughout. That still seems like you mentioned earlier. You're going to continue to be able to be a part of that, correct?
Yes, I'll still continue to do my camps in Austin and down in Corpus Christi. We're going to do one in San Angelo this summer, so there's going to be 3 going on, and then I'll continue to train quarterbacks, in the off season, stuff like that, So I'm that'll kind of maybe scratch the itch a little bit from what I'm about to leave.
All right, so you get a chance to do all the things you want to do. When do you feel like that you might be tested emotionally first? Spring drills, August workouts, or the first Friday night next August?
No doubt it's going to be this coming February, and it won't be long from now. It'll be literally a little over a month from now, because that's historically for a long, long time. That's when I started our quarterback training program. It's the month of February, and I always take all of our quarterbacks in the month of February. So I know that the month that will seem different to me. That's when I know that I'm not in it any longer, and so. I was just talking to Riley earlier today, and then I told him, I said, that's because he asked me exactly the same thing that you just asked me. And I said, that's when I'm going to really, it's going to really hit me.
One more thing, Todd. When you played for a state championship at Port Arthur Jefferson and played Permian back in your career there, did you and obviously Permian won that game? How much of a thirst was it to always get back to that moment, no matter, obviously no longer as a player but as a coach?
A huge thirst. I mean, it was from a competitive standpoint. The high school football team that I played on was about 1 quarter of football, literally, 12 minutes of football away from being considered one of the greatest high school football teams of all time, and may still be mentioned in those conversations. But we were just another team that got beat in the state finals. We were 14-1 back when we played 15 ball games. We were a fabulous team, had great players, but and so I always tried to vow that if I ever got a team back there again, that I would try to do everything we could to keep that from happening. And I've been so blessed to make it back to 9 state championships as a head coach and win 7 of them.
So was that your senior year at Jefferson?
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
your last game as a player, you played for a state championship. Your last game as a head coach, you won one. It kind of goes full circle,
yes,
huh? Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, you said you were in Waco. That could take you about an hour and a half to get through with all that traffic. I hope it's a smoother drive than sometimes normal with all the construction going on, buddy.
Yeah, we're on the south side now. We're about to stop at Cavender's.
Okay.
Stop at Cavender's, buy some cowboy boots.
Well, you've earned those. But you've earned them. Hey, I know it's been a day when you've tried to just relax, so thank you for giving us 20 minutes of your time. Good luck, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, Todd.
Thank y'all so much for having me on. Merry Christmas.
You too. That's Todd Dodge. 7 times he played at Jefferson. Mike Owens was on that staff at Port Arthur Jefferson, who went on to coach your alma mater and won a state championship at now Legacy was Lee High School in Tyler. 7 times. Twice he's done 3-peats at the highest level at Westlake, and then, of course, earlier won 4 times at Carroll and won 3 in a row at Carroll. He had the struggles at North Texas. He and I have discussed that before, and all that did was feed him even more, his desire to get back into coaching and win again.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sic 'em Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Here we are on this Wednesday of Christmas week. Hope you have a chance to get away, relax, decompress. Football season is not over because the NFL has 3 games left in their season. Bowl games are going on, and the college football playoff, of course, coming up very soon. Baylor will be in New Orleans next week to cover preparations for the Sugar Bowl with Baylor and Ole Miss, and then, of course, the game on January the 1st. College football's landscape changed in late July, and so did the landscape of this show. We had just returned from the Big 12 Media Days and had spoken to Lincoln Riley and Steve Sarkisian, among everybody else basically that was there on the Big 12 moving forward for the 2021 season. And then the next week, all hell broke loose. Brent Zerneman had the story about the SEC in Texas and Oklahoma. And it was almost like about as much of a blindside hit as you could have. And yet the Big 12 survived. And they will. But my goodness, that story brought a lot of you to here, to where we are, to where we were trying to help you understand the future of perhaps West Virginia or Brigham Young. One that's in the conference and one that maybe wasn't at the time and now they will be. Or Houston, or UCF, or Cincinnati, or what happens to Kansas State, or what happens to TCU and Baylor, or Texas Tech, and all the rumors. And here we are. What an earth-shattering story that was in late July.
Yeah, it was nuts, and I don't think any of us at the time, at the immediate thing, thought of like all the different, spider web of implications, or like what teams really, what cards they had in their hand. Like it just, and the 2 of the biggest ones who didn't really know what everybody had in their hand were Texas and Oklahoma, who I think would be planning on jumping into the SEC in a year if they. If not for the Big 12 going, well, wait a minute, we have all the rules.
With Texas's season, they would have played their last game. They thought maybe perhaps this year after going 5-7 in the Big 12.
I wish they would go slide into the SEC now. Yeah, please do that. Please, if you had a year like you had in the Big 12 this year, imagine what that would have been like in the SEC. I mean, that would have been. I think that they were fortunate that it's worked out the way that it has, quite frankly. It gives them some nice run-up time, whereas I don't think, Texas was any way, shape, or form ready for a launch into the SEC. And Oklahoma, you see what happened with them. They might have been ready when it was announced initially, but by 2 weeks ago, they would not have been ready whatsoever. Now they probably feel that way again. But 2 weeks ago, they were scrambling around like chickens with their heads cut off because of the Lincoln Riley news.
So it changed. I don't know what you guys, we discussed it. Yeah, I got to tell you, the first thing I thought about was kind of similar back when Nebraska and Colorado, Missouri, and then A&M all decided over a year or two to leave. And there was the rumors that Oklahoma and the Pac-12 or Texas. And, of course, it didn't take long. Bob Bowlesby got his ass up off the canvas. We know that. And even though some still don't like the way it went down and that Bowlesby appeased those two schools who always felt entitled, especially one, at least that's how most people feel, he saved the conference. And so did maybe a name or two behind the scenes that you'll never know, because they reacted after being knocked out unconscious with a hangover. They reacted, and it brought a lot of you to us. And man, I tell you what, a story that initially was, oh my God, turned out to be who we are today with you, and it's been a great run.
Well, I think one of the things it's made us do as a college football viewing public or fans of it is go, wait a minute, why is this economic model only for these schools or these places? Like, what's preventing everybody else from getting in on it at least somehow? And the biggest thing is the ones who are succeeding on it now don't want you to. They don't want a free and open market of college football, because then that empties their chokehold on it. They have a monopoly. Nobody is challenging that monopoly, and they're just going to keep it. Now, that would, mostly the SEC right now. And you can understand from a business sense why the SEC doesn't want other people swimming in their waters, but there's no reason why everybody else just has to roll over and take it. And I think that's what the Big 12 was like, well, wait a minute. Why do we have to sit here and roll over and take it? Eventually, they're going to need us as well. The best thing I think Bob Bowlesby said was a couple weeks ago when they were talking about the 12-team playoff and the automatic qualifiers. He said that the automatic qualifiers would certainly benefit the Big 12, and it's the best thing for the Big 12, but it's not necessarily the best thing for college football. And to hear that come out of someone's mouth was really refreshing, because
who is a Power 5 commissioner?
Power 5 commissioner is saying,
on the playoff expansion,
saying, look, we've done this for a long time where we were exclusionary, and it eventually hurts most of the teams in it. Let's do this so that we can try and help everybody in it and make it better for college football in the long run, and not just what's good for right now.
Well, it changed college football, as you know, and then there was, we were fortunate to be able to kind of understand what was going on behind the scenes. And then, of course, Brigham Young made a hell of a lot of sense. It did. They're free to do anything they want. And so that was easy. And then there was the question about, okay, who's next? And there was, okay, I don't know, and maybe, but how about, and then in the end, other than who they have with the Big 12, with UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, and also Brigham Young, of teams that were available, non-Power 5 teams available or independents available. Notre Dame's not in the discussion. Did they get all four perfectly? There may be two or three you could argue that could be a part of that four, but pretty much aren't they? Did they not get the four?
Yeah, I think they did. I wasn't very high on Houston for starters, but you look at their basketball program right now with Kelvin Sampson. You look at what Dana Holgerson did in football and just the metro area. I get now why the Big 12 did what they did. They're never going to control the city of Houston. That's going to always be A&M and Texas territory. Rice is an afterthought. All due respect, but they are. Let's face it, they are when it comes to football. If we want to have an academics discussion, that's a different story. But as far as this goes, they're not in the equation. So that leaves Houston as really your only option to carve out any niche. And I know that there's still, a good footprint for Baylor and Tech and schools like that down in Houston too. But the Cougs have the home field advantage there, and so I'll come around on that one. And kind of the same argument for why SMU would make sense in round two. That's the argument for Houston as well. But outside of being able to land a Notre Dame, my only other thing that would have potentially been better was if somehow that alliance wouldn't have worked out and you could have gone and poached a couple Pac-12 schools potentially, but that never really got down the road at all. So with that off the table, you didn't have many other options. you see all the other teams that scrambled afterwards and where they went and how they went there and all of that, and I don't think there's any of those that you would take over the 4 that you got. So, I think they did about as well as they could have.
I don't know how else you could have done better. And then, of course, there is the argument and is the topic about whether or not there will be a Chapter 2. And, of course, that remains to be seen. That's kind of like gone quiet because, well, it's the Pac-12, what are they going to do? I think right now the Pac-12 commissioner, Kliakop, I think he's all of a sudden realizing he's in a room with a bunch of people that really don't care who he is. And there's always going to be a little pushback because of this, the political structure of the Pac-12. Their TV network, their conference TV network is a disaster, and nobody seems to really want it. So good luck, and I mean it, because we needed the Big 12, and I think you need the Pac-12, and you want them to survive. It's good for college football. But in the end, the Big 12 in the summer of 2023, whether or not that includes Texas or Oklahoma remains to be seen. And I think maybe the day before that everything becomes official with UCF, Houston, Brigham Young, and Cincinnati, that perhaps that's the day that Texas and Oklahoma leave. And then there's, again, can they afford that? Texas can afford anything. And, of course, we know, and we said this from the beginning, can Oklahoma afford some of the penalties and exit fees? So that'll all work out at some point. When we come back, Tony Altimore, he was able to put together a graphic, a series, kind of a presentation like you're in front of a group of CEOs about what makes sense and what doesn't. Why does UCF or Houston or even Cincinnati and Brigham Young, where do they fit in the structure of college athletics, and why them? And maybe a few other notes about the others, and that's next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Berg Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Berg Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, I've been talking about this presentation. We threw up a graphic about a week ago, I think it was. Tony Altimore contacted us. He is a strategist, a consultant. He understands quite a bit about college football. And I just love graphics and images. I do when it comes to helping. Like me, I'm one of those, I need like large crayons to keep me focused, and pictures help. So he contacted us a week ago about a lot of things the Big 12 might be looking at or other conferences might be looking at. And Tony Altimore, is he going to join us on Skype today? Is that right? He is. He's in that corner box on the right-hand side. Tony, good afternoon. How you been?
Hey, guys. Doing well. How you doing?
We're doing
good show so far?
Yeah, it's been so far. We just had a great show with a sports attorney about the National Labor Relations Board and just kind of what it might mean as well. Now, what we're going to do, and normally we do the interviews, we ask the questions. We're going to let you kind of explain a little bit of what you do, how you got into this, and what you're about to show us, because we're sharing the screen with you in your presentation. And on occasion, we'll probably interrupt and ask a question.
By all means. So I do strategy consulting usually for clients. And as we've been going through the realignment mess, it really struck me a couple things. One, that I thought a lot of folks weren't using numbers and data as we were looking at candidates. And 2, that a lot of our fans and actually you guys are kind of the exception, a ton of our writers really weren't thinking about it like the athletic directors, and especially not like the presidents and the conferences do. And having done a lot of different college sports work and a lot of work that I do with leadership development, where I've worked with a couple hundred different colleges around the country, I thought that a lot of this stuff really wasn't being shown the way that they had looked at it. So I thought, what if we just threw some numbers at this and put it together, and what would that tell us about who could help the Big 12 most? And 2 things happened. First, I found that 1, it gave us actually the exact answer that they picked. And 2, all sorts of other really interesting insights kind of came out of that about why I think a lot of the stuff around the sport right now is the way it is, particularly with conferences and realignment. And given how much your audience really focuses on realignment, it really struck me as something that would help them. So that's why I wanted to reach out, and hopefully they'll get some interesting takeaways. And I sent you guys a link to download the whole thing if people wanted. We're going to kind of hit on some highlights. And then for the folks on the radio, I'll try to also, tell it verbally, not just because it's, hard to read necessarily on the screen, or if you don't have a screen on your radio, folks.
All right.
Yeah. Well, let her rip, Tony.
All right. Let's make sure this is working. All right, there we go. First of all, just real quick for you guys, I saw this a while ago and I kind of laughed. None of this is new. Know that Michigan State found exactly the same thing in the 1940s when the Big Ten was expanding. So for everybody thinking, sometimes this is crazy and new, funny enough, it really isn't. So I just thought I'd show you real quick what I first looked at when we first thought about this was really the idea that particularly on the presidential level, they want to see a balance in conference mates, because this isn't just somebody that they're going to play in sports. It's somebody that's going to be voting on things that affect their school. And they really want to have somebody that on an institutional level is a school that they want to be partnered with and branded with forever. And two, is really somebody that, like a person, the actual person in the room. Like, you guys think about Dr. Livingstone from Baylor. I mean, she's awesome. And she's on the NCAA Board of Governors. She's the type of person you would want in that room. The president of the University of Houston, another one. If you're a president, you want her in that room. And you see with these folks, they look for excellence in everything that they do. So they really try to balance that idea of the sport and the school. And so I first looked at, how can we collect a bunch of different metrics and see what it looks like when we put the sport and the school together to kind of get a little bit of both. And we started to see some really interesting things in a different picture of kind of what it was like. So we took that and kind of created like some different lines of analysis that we looked at. This is kind of just a list of the different factors that we first put into the equation. It came up with a benchmarking idea for the Big 12 of, if we were trying to think about, is a school worthy of being in the Big 12? And that's kind of on an institutional level and on a team level. The way I thought about it is I thought, all right, you guys have 8 members at the time. Where on all of these, 50 different metrics, where does every team and school fit? Are they better than half the Big 12 or not even as good? And it was really interesting to kind of score them and come up with these things about, where do they fit? And so, you take a look at, for example, this kind of gives one example, just a U.S. News and World Report rank, which incorporates a whole lot of other things. You look at SMU, they're above your number one. You look at UCF, they're right in the middle, and you look at Boise, and they're off the tail end. And that's not to say that anything is a better or worse. Rank is not necessarily a good or bad thing, because schools have different missions, they're doing different things, and there's a million different ways to rank them. So we looked at a lot of different ones to involve them. That's just sort of one as an example. And we kind of saw a lot of different trends here in the schools and in what the Big 12 was looking at. And particularly what was interesting with this is that you had candidates being considered that were, at the extreme elite academic ends all the way down to, much, much further out. But like I said, one of the big drivers is president. So you think about a school like Houston, and that can throw all of your metrics away, because you've got a president there who is just an absolute rock star. She's raising money. She's boosting everything. Every metric about Houston is skyrocketing up under her. So you think about the Sheryl Sandberg quote of, if you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get on. Well, not much question that, Houston's there. Not much question about the rumors. If the Pac-12 wanted to go to Texas, they would want Houston. She's their ticket. And as you guys look at the next, I kind of just real quick here put, they're talking about round 2. And if we think about, the new Big 12, you can kind of see here on one side, these are just one metric of each, but, a football run on the right side and an academic one on the left. And, where do each of these different programs potentially match up? And, ideally you want somebody that you're making a decision on. And that decision can go either way. You can say, I really, I understand the school and I like this school and I don't care that they're not as institutionally with it. Or you can say, they're building a football team and they're growing, and it's okay if they stink now. I mean, the Big Ten kind of did that when they added Rutgers, for example.
Right.
On the other hand, you take a look at, I mentioned this to Paul, Boise hired Jeremiah Dickey, and they probably didn't do that just for kicks. They did that because they want to be the next Baylor. And so you look at that and you say, okay, they're building an institution there. My guess would be your athletic directors and your presidents might be willing to bend a little bit more on some of the academic standards. This kind of looks at just, kind of how we scored them in the last round. And it came out to really say that there were about 12, these are just the highlights, but there were 12 schools that came out in the formula to say that they were really sort of qualified, that they were in the midst of or better than the current Big 12 schools on both sets of metrics. And you guys took definitely the best 4. BYU was by far the number 1. Even with, we had some controversy pieces in there, and they still came out in the formula to be number 1. So, obviously it was smart for them to pick. This is just kind of an example of a screen. This is looking at round 2 metrics. This is like institution. So if you look at the green lines there, you can kind of see, schools like SMU, Tulane, Colorado State, great schools. They got a lot of green for, where they match against the Big 12. You look at other folks and, for example, here, look at Boise. You got a lot of red, but look at this on research. They've actually, since they've gotten big in football, they've more than doubled the research that they're doing. So they're doing exactly what, that little Catholic college in Northwest Indiana did, and exactly what that little college USC in a dusty mustard field outside LA did, and sort of building themselves off of football. So kind of cool to think about it. And right now, Boise is right now doing more research than SMU.
Okay, let's stop 1 second. Paul, you have
I wanted to mention, like you showed that there were some teams, and we've seen a lot of them that you through these numbers just did not qualify because they're not doing all these things and hitting these metrics, right?
Yeah, and in qualify it's really more what what the presidents and athletic directors say. But, for example, if you're going to look at, and the Pac-10 is a little bit, or the Pac-12, I still say 10 out of habit, has a little more firm standards, and the Big Ten has very firm standards on its academics, where they say, if you don't hit this bar, you're not going to be a member. The Big 12 has some flexibility in that, and that's kind of valuable. I'll give you an example. West Virginia has some very low metrics, but West Virginia has made it like their mission as a university to educate the people of Appalachia. And they are perfectly okay with the fact that their bottom admissions end is a little more flexible than Duke. And so one of the things that I tried to do in these numbers was to build in that capability, so that they were looking at, does this school, not just are they fancy, but are they hitting against their mission? And I think we got that in a lot of them. And you guys got the 4 best.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic, and I'm having those who are involved either in athletics or those involved in some things when it comes to television, or even managers and CEOs saying they love I love graphics. I'm a graphics guy. It helps me out a little bit. You kind of validated with your graphics and with your figures, metrics, data, analysts, whatever you want to say, the 4 that they added then, right?
Oh, completely. Those were the 4 by far the best. And I'll tell you, I actually gave BYU, because BYU last time they applied had some kind of dings for some of their various policies and some of their discrimination issues. They even overcame all those dings to be like, this is the school to pick, number 1. But what I thought was interesting is we went through a lot of other stuff about conferences came out that was really interesting. I'm going to kind of forward through just because I know you guys don't have all the time. But what I saw is
Tony, can you go back? Are you allowed to go back one to that with all the blue and light blue bubbles and all that? Okay, yep. To let everyone know, obviously to the right and top is the best, right?
Yeah, to the right and top is the best.
Okay,
usually.
What are and the Big 12 schools are where?
Let me just flick to this one because it's a little easier to see. The Big 12 schools are red in almost all the charts I've got. So you guys can look for red.
Okay.
SEC is yellow. The different alliance schools are the different shades of blue.
Okay.
And what I thought was interesting about the SEC, what I thought was really interesting is this is a chart with how you do on all NCAA sports on one side, going up. So vertical is you do better on all NCAA sports.
Right.
And to the right is as you get a higher academic rank. And this worked even when I changed different metrics. When I used to put football things on the vertical and different academic things on the right, it all kind of held. And I'll show you guys an example of that. But what was interesting about this is the conferences still fit together. So look at the SEC, and I think it's really interesting. The SEC is the yellow. You see, there's really 2 chunks of the SEC.
Yeah.
They have the SEC as we think about it, but then, and you guys know this better, up in the corner there's Texas and Texas A&M, which are here, by the way, the bigger the bubble, the bigger their endowment, the more money they have to play with. So you see Texas and Texas A&M and Florida and Georgia are like a whole nother little separate foursome world, separate from the SEC, the rest of the SEC as far as institutions and everything. I thought that was interesting. Yeah. And I thought the Big 12 was cool. If you guys can see on here, they really fit together. And in fact, if you look at the old Big 12, and those are highlighted, sorry, I went too far. If you see, you can kind of see there's red around it. The schools that used to be part of the Big 12 fit even better in with it. So you kind of see schools really, the conferences really kind of built themselves together kind of organically based on mostly who they were, with some exceptions like Vanderbilt's the crazy exception to the SEC. And I'll give you a kind of example of where I think that gets interesting. You look at the expansion rumors of the SEC, you hear about them. Oh, they're targeting Virginia and Florida State and Clemson. Those are right there adjacent to them and further out from their own conferences. So it really was a lot about fit. And one of the other pieces that I thought, you guys heard the Mountain West, it's sort of like kind of surprising people because they're rebuffing the AAC. But if you look at the Mountain West, it's purple here. They're all this really close-knit group together. Like they are, very similar institutions. Where this got a little bit even more kind of crazy is this thing I call the asteroid belt, which is that all of the weird places that don't really fit were kind of together, and most of them are tied to the old collapse of the old Big East. And so if you look here at how we put a map of it, it lays on there. The gray is the AAC and the old Big East. They're really fitting together, and we see really the impact of the death of the Big East still has today in the SWC in some of the schools like SMU and Tulane and UMass, that in UConn that never really found a real good home. But where I thought was really interesting takeaway was about the Alliance. And I know a lot of folks, particularly in the Big 12 and the SEC, kind of scoffed a little bit at the Alliance, but I thought it was because culturally they didn't get it. And it turned out there was even a little more to that. So when I looked at the Alliance, the core of the Alliance is really three groups that are intermingled completely up at that top right. And it's what I call the Pac-5, which are the original 5 founders of today's Pac-12, which are the 4 California schools and Washington. Lots of scandal. The history of the Pac-12 will give the Southwest Conference as much drama as they had. North Carolina, Duke, Virginia, Wake Forest, and Tobacco Road. And then the Great Lakes Club of, Northwestern, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. They all kind of very much fit together in that. And they fit together in a lot of ways. So if you take a look at, there's only 12 schools that are in the top 50 for both ranks, which technically makes the top 100 because liberal arts is a separate thing. So the top 100 schools, top 50 football programs, there's only 12. 9 of them are in the Alliance, 3 in each of those conferences. And then 3 of the 4 SEC ones that we talked about. And Texas A&M's pretty close. So you really have kind of a little bit of a different culture. And when you look at the ranks of the schools, you see, ACC, Big 10, Pac-12, they have a lot of schools kind of at their front. But then they have these second waves that are kind of a little bit separate. Like the Pac is pretty split. You've got those 5 up in that corner, right, locked tight together, and then kind of a way out drift. But what I thought was kind of wacky is when you actually integrate the full Alliance team, they fit together better.
Mm-hmm. And Tony, those are the ones in any kind of blue shade, correct?
Yeah, any kind of blue shape are the different Alliance ones.
Okay, all right.
They really fit, and Stanford's that big giant blue circle in the top.
Yeah, that's what's the largest planet?
Stanford.
Yeah.
That's $30 billion in endowment.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. We think Texas is rich with $30 billion for the entire UT system. Stanford has it for just their little school.
Wow. Like everybody can fit in their bubble. It almost seemed like to me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They really fit. It really fit great closely together. But here's where it got even more interesting. Check this out. When you take a look at these little lines, the line that is BYU and Georgia over, and then on the other side is Arizona State and Colorado over. You start to see, like, culturally, you have almost all the Alliance are on one side, almost all of the SEC and Big 12 are on the other. And so I think, when you heard people sort of making fun of it and being like, oh, who cares about diversity and academics? And all, well, the Big 10 schools are like, that would be us. And part of that also reads, by the way, this holds true against different metrics. You see the same kind of chart with using different metrics. What was really interesting to me about it was 2 things I thought were kind of myths. I'll show you guys. I'm just sort of skipping ahead to show you guys. First of all, these schools are really intermixed. So like the UCLA chancellor was the provost at Virginia for 30 years. The president of Berkeley and UCLA was the president of Ohio State. The president of USC was the president of North Carolina. And so these three conferences are really, really, really intermingled closely at the highest ranks. And a lot of them also do things together differently. So, for example, when you join the Big Ten, you're not just joining a conference. They have integrated fiber optic networks. They integrate their cybersecurity. They have their library systems are together. They scan all the documents for their stuff together. They run their training of professors to become department leaders, all run together. And so when you think about integrating all that, part of the reason that they're so sticky and so closely together is the institutions are actually linked up together really closely. And I think that makes a big difference and is a huge opportunity for the Big 12 of something that they could do more of. And then when you take a look at where it manifests itself, you really start to see them come together. One thing I thought was interesting that I kind of had an idea of was for some of the schools that didn't fit, kind of where they were. I thought about it. Are you really, as a school, as it's somebody like Vanderbilt, is it that they're like, you know what? We want to be here. We know we're this phenomenal school and we're getting our butts pounded to us on Saturdays, but we like being part of the SEC. That's where we want to be. And if you think about a school like Nebraska, that seems like it's out on the yonder for the Big Ten. I mean, Nebraska is a phenomenal university, and they're probably saying we want to be with Michigan and Ohio State, and Johns Hopkins just joined in some sports. Like that's who we want to play with. We want to play with Michigan and not with whoever pick one of them.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you think about that, there may be some schools saying that's kind of where we want to be, and that's where I think about Boise fitting in the Big 12. Is that Boise's saying what we didn't used to be a national university, and we're going there.
Tony, this is the feedback again has been incredible.
I've never used nobody's ever used the F word on this show, but I'm so enticed to. Yeah. Just holy, what? Because the documents and the graphics and the one that really just blew me away was the tie-ins with all the universities. That's so in-depth and just brilliant. So, yeah, I'm just blown away looking at all this information.
But you wanted to ask him this about the next level, right? Chad, you've heard us to report, Tony, the Chapter 2 in the Big 12. You've mentioned Boise, Memphis with what they do. They're in the graphic as well, Craig?
Yeah, I was just curious, Tony. We know the 4 that have already been invited, but in terms of the 4 that have been rumored as potentially a second phase, down the line, which would be, SMU –
yeah, it would Memphis and Boise, SMU, and most likely USF.
Yes.
USF. Yep.
Yeah, Tony,
yeah.
Where do they fit in your info and in your mind as far as potential Big 12 candidates? Those 4 schools.
So I do kind of look at it as saying what this does is it kind of informs, and then you have to make decisions.
Okay.
And so when we look at, I'm flipping back actually to them. And I think your folks would love, actually, there's one of the financial thing I think that I want to quick flip through. I think that they would really get a kick out of.
Sure.
You look at it, I would say Boise State and Memphis are not on par with the current Big 12 members on academic or institutional metrics. And Memphis is going through a search for a new president. But my guess is that they would probably absolutely want to do whatever they needed to take advantage of that and become part of and be in the conference.
Well, that's what
the conference is. We want to be in that area. I mean, the other thing is you have limited choices. Mm-hmm. There's only so many different schools, and so you might say the chances of what if I have to pick between the idea of Memphis gets to be a better school or Rice gets to be a better football team, which am I going to pick?
Memphis, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and that's a value question.
Yeah.
Again, I think Boise has made a lot of those improvements, and there's nothing you can do more than hiring Jeremiah Dickey and saying, build us a new Baylor.
Yeah, and then Houston was thought of as well. There's a lot of things Houston was thought of, but you mentioned they hired a president. She's a rock star. They're listening to her, and she's turned them around. And so there are teams that are programs, universities that could also learn from what the University of Houston has done in the last few years as well.
And remember, too, that rankings are a lot of a lagging indicator because it takes years for the stuff you're doing to really hit in the rankings. I really want a quick show. I think you guys might find fascinating the difference, and I'll look at Houston for this, the difference that being a part of the A5 is going to make for these schools. So this is all about revenue. And there's like 3 different groups. There's, the Big Ten and the SEC, the other A5, and then the G5. And the G5, I'm telling you guys, cannot keep up. So, for example, if you look at here, the red is subsidies from the school. So this is revenue. The G5 the schools are eating the tab for the athletic department. This is the whole athletic department. Versus the A5, the money is coming in from the conferences and the TV revenues. But on the G5 level, the school is paying for that department. And if you take a look at here, this is per student spending. So what does it cost per athlete? So you look at Big 12 schools, by the way, it's only the public schools because we don't have the private numbers. You're looking at $300,000 per the Big 12. You're looking at $300,000 per football player they spend. Ohio State spends like $1 million a player, but and $160,000 for a regular athlete. But those football players are earning the money that pays for the entire department because 78% of the Big 12 money goes to those other sports and everything. So we took a look at profitability, and this is where it gets crazy. Now, if you look on here, you see the yellow and the light blue are Big Ten and SEC. This is what I think. It is actually using a cash flow profitability method. So I was a finance major, so this is really looking at like the true money going in. So there's a lot of, in the university accounting, there's a lot of baloney back and forth of like, what is the cost of the scholarship? And you charge it to the athletic department, even though you don't really pay that much. So I tried to correct for all that and come up with what was actually the profit amount. But look, for example, here at all the other schools and look at the very end, there's Houston and UCF sitting there. Without the benefit of that money, they're bleeding, $32,000 a player.
Wow.
And when you look at the cash flow, the entire cash flow profitability, you see there, Houston was pumping Houston was essentially losing, I think from a cash flow standpoint, about $40 million a year. And this flips them around. I mean, this literally, you pick that up and all of a sudden now they go from that bottom end to right in the middle when they start getting your revenue checks.
You see why everybody wants to join a Power 5 conference, right?
Yeah. These are the profitability percentages of the athletic departments.
Oh,
look at you see the G5 on the right. They're just plunging into negative. And actually you have trouble calculating some of the numbers because they don't even go down that far. And the last thing real quick, just not to cut you off, but I think you guys will find interesting. It then extends to all the other sports too. So what I found is you see here, this is all sports, looking at all conferences. The A5 have the money. That's what they pump into the resources and the athletes. And as a result, they win. So conferences, I thought I'd see like the Big East winning a lot of, I don't know, softball, tennis, stuff like that. The Patriot League, the league that's all the University of California schools that are, don't play football. No, the points are dramatically all with the A5 schools.
Some of the responses on the chat room from Sebastian, this is incredible. Gary, amazing. Chris agreed. Fantastic presentation. Awesome. Thanks. And from Mark, need more of this content. Cool, incredible. This guy's on point. Learning learning a ton right now. Great questions as well. So, I mean, that's just some of it.
Can I show just one last thing real quick? I think you're folks will laugh at. So as a Big Ten, Pac-10 guy, I always wanted to vomit when I see those commercials that say, do you care as much as the SEC? And it makes me want to go and hurl. But I found actually something really interesting. Truth is, the answer is no. And it's really interesting because the SEC, and think about this, you guys, as you hear them talk about, all the stuff they pump into football, Alabama spends more on sports than they do on research. But what's interesting is that because the Big Ten schools, particularly in the Pac-12 schools, have a lot, and the Big 12 is split a little bit half and half on this. They have a lot of money. So they have huge endowments and massive budgets. So actually the importance of the profits of the athletic department are a lot less important. UCLA's won, 300 Olympic medals or something, because they shower money on all of the Olympic sports. What's interesting about the SEC is they're in this interesting middle ground where they're big, great schools, but they also, that money makes a really big impact. And so when I looked here at, I did create sort of this index, I called it the SEC Do You Care As Much As We Do index, for how important the sports are the revenues from the sports are at the other schools relative to the SEC. And, they're a fraction.
It looks like the middle finger to me. I don't know about you guys.
It does. Yeah.
That could be a subliminal message to the
oh my goodness, yeah. And this is
there's the Big 12.
Okay. Yep. There you go. This is so. This almost validates. It doesn't almost. It validates the four, as you mentioned, the Big 12 among those available. And that are joining the conference in the next 2 or 3 years.
It validates the four, but also how critical was the timing, in your opinion, of how quickly Bob Bowlesby and the Big 12 moved on securing those four top teams that were there?
Oh, I thought it was big. I also thought it was completely unsurprising because remember what Bob Bowlesby's background is. Bob Bowlesby was like the legendary athletic director at Iowa, and then he was the athletic director at Stanford. So he's a Big Ten, Pac-10 guy, old school. And two things that really struck me from that is in very like Iowa, very Stanford ways, he moved quickly, decisively, and quietly. That I bet he knew from day one exactly what they were going to do. I also think that by moving really quickly, he prevented a lot of potential hassles or problems. I love BYU, but they have detractors for numbers of different reasons. And he locked that in, so that there was no time for people to rally anything up. I think they solidified everything. The other thing is that some of those schools, just the way the Pac-10 is, I'll be honest, I was kind of laughing, and I think I said this in an email to a friend who went to Kansas State. I was like, they would have hated the Pac-12.
Yeah.
They would have hated it. Yeah. And so, the grass is not always greener on the other side. And so when you think about the Pac-12 was never going to have Boise, and they were never going to have BYU. And so getting those schools homes is really important. I think for the sport, we want stability and a chance for the pie to get bigger for everybody. And so, on that end, I think it's really important and really solid that, we get as many of these schools locked into nice, solid things as we can. And I hope that it'll settle in a way that also the AAC. So when I looked at the numbers for the AAC, people treat the AAC kind of like a foster home, and it's not. They run a great conference, particularly given that half their members would sell them out in a minute. And Mike Oresco needs Man of the Year award for that.
Yeah, for sure.
As you were saying this, I typed this up to one of the chat room comments about this all makes sense on how the Big 12 reacted maybe when a lot of people thought they were dead in the water, and I wasn't sure if they weren't, but because of who they have, advisors, consultants, and as you said, I typed this up as you were saying this. This is why they move so quickly, emphatically, and almost like a silent assassin with a major comeback. Was that how you would say it?
I would definitely say it. And the other thing is, you think about Oliver Luck. Oliver Luck is people say, oh, well, I don't, why do we count academics? Oliver Luck was a magna cum laude Rhodes Scholar finalist who sent his 3 kids to Stanford. They weren't going to choose dummy schools.
Yeah. Hey, Tony, and I know this is your work, if somebody wanted to get a hold of this, can they? I mean, I know we've already put
you guys a link.
Okay.
They could reach out to me if they wanted. And I sent you a download link. I'll leave that up for a week or so.
Okay. All right. And I'm going to, if you want to text us, we'll also try to help you get in touch with that information.
Yeah, please, by all means. And there's a lot of other stuff in there. I think it's real interesting. A lot of questions I think, people should ask and leaders should think about. And you guys will sort of see some other kind of, deep dives on some areas. And, kind of looking at the conferences, just the big thing is, just so everybody knows, I try to use as many different factors as we can, and know that nothing is judgmental because they're all just ratings on different things. So and schools have different missions.
So Tony, if I was to ask you the next level, because they have chapter 1, that's in bed. Chapter 2 is maybe chapter 2 plus 2 or 4, right? It Boise State and Memphis. You do concur with that, right?
Yeah, I would do the 5, and I would do the 4. I'm sorry. And the reason I would do that is because, so Jim Delaney, when they added Penn State, supposedly, or they added Rutgers and Maryland, supposedly was really concerned sort of about Penn State kind of out there on their own. There's a couple I wouldn't want to leave Central Florida too much on their own.
Yeah.
That far away. So it kind of helps to have somebody there. The other thing about SMU is, you're talking about a great school, a lot of potential, right by the airport, which, Pac-12 people, they love their schools are all right by airports. It's great, other than Washington State. And you really have a chance then to kind of lock everything in, own that area. Nobody else is going to step in and take your schools, or at least they have a lot harder. You're not leaving people out there. The other thing is the Big 12 has a chance to create a culture of its own now, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Like in the past, the Big 8 was really a lot of Nebraska and Colorado and Oklahoma. And when Texas came in, they were larger than life. You have this really cool chance to build culture. And so I think you're probably better off getting as many people in the room as fast as you can for that.
And it appears that's what they're going to do. A lot of it depended on the Pac-12 and their television revenue, which is just a matter of time, and also the college football playoff expansion. Tony, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I made my comment about the F word earlier, but, I think that there's an incredible amount of information that you showed us, but there's also, as you said, so much more for people to go and check out as well and have a lot of fun looking through. I mean, it's just incredible, Tony. Like, it really is, man. Amazing job.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, just a totally different way, but the smart way of looking at everything instead of just the fan way or the, whatever. So, yeah, just brilliant stuff.
Well, and I told you this on the phone earlier this morning, Tony. I think the important thing, like the great thing about having you on is we have so many listeners that are trying to do the math without the math in their head. Like, they're trying to make all this work and like, oh, you should add UConn and San Diego State. And you, like I mentioned to you, like, I don't know if the people thought of it. They didn't want to play volleyball on a Wednesday, like doing that. Like the UConn, as much as they'll have fun going to the zoo and everything, I think that maybe they'll get tired of that after a while. And you've given all the background information as to how this stuff really works. It's not just trying to play Connect Four.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you one last thing that's really kind of interesting I found, and Paul and I mentioned this a little bit, is that when you look at scheduling, like if they were to really take the alliance stuff and integrate it better, which I think they should, the Big Ten and the let me see if I can flick to that. The Big Ten and the ACC actually line up really well. Let me flick back to it to do like group trips. So like you actually could do like a lot more trips of like groups of teams where you could actually like, charter planes. And all of a sudden now you're looking at, being able to keep kids in 3 more days of classes, play 4 games at 4 national teams and be back home, Sunday night. Because they actually fit together pretty well airport wise and stuff. You can actually do some really interesting logistics with that.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Tony, I mean, everybody's going nuts. They love it. Again,
no
Tony
stone
Altamore,
left unturned.
Give your I don't have it in front of me. I know we've had you on. Give everybody your Twitter handle. Is it just straight up your name, right?
It's close. It's my Twitter is at TJ Altamore. Altamore is like Baltimore with no B. So yeah. TJALTIMORE. It's also, I think I sent the link. I don't know if you guys can put that on like the description or whatever. Again, I put actually the whole 220 pages of people want to download it. This is kind of another example on there of, what I thought they could do. As far as, alliance stuff, you could really look at like relegation and promotion. So there's a lot of potential. I mean, I think the Big 12 could look at that too. If the Big 12 gets bigger, you're looking at 16 teams. Maybe you want to have an A league and a B league, and because your A league can compete with anybody, and nobody can criticize.
Tony, thank you. I just had this one more from Daniel. I am a business analyst at work, and this presentation is amazing. It would have taken me weeks, if not months, to do something like this. Kudos to Tony.
Oh, thanks
you, Daniel. For your time. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
3 Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'EM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down, cash or trade. TTNL Extra. See dealer for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Car. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Car. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Car today.
At Richard Car, we give you more. Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
The top 5 at 5:55 today. Look, we're doing a couple here in a row that are, Christmas movie things. It's Christmas themed. This one may not land with Smokey all that much, Craig. You'll probably see. I'm just saying there'll be a couple you've seen.
What are you, Scrooge or something?
I'm not Scrooge. I'm just saying a couple of these you probably have not seen, but you probably would like, I would say, if you're going to sit down and watch a movie. Armstrong and I had a debate, or having a debate about whether Die Hard's a Christmas movie. You can go back and watch that top 5 from Tuesday. He doesn't think it is, and I think he's wrong. But here are top 5 Christmas slapstick comedies. If you want to just watch something that's not necessarily Miracle on 34th Street, that it's not necessarily heartfelt there's some of that in there, but it's just a slapstick, funny, a good, funny Christmas movie. Then here are 5. Some of them are a little, off the map when it comes to it.
How many of these have I watched?
Maybe 2.
Okay.
I would say maybe 2. If it's 3, honestly, you can slap me at the face at the end of this thing.
Okay.
For everyone to see.
Right here in front of everybody.
Right here in front of everybody.
Happy New Year, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number 5, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer. This is a whodunit, a mystery comedy. I think it's Robert Downey Jr.'s best non-Iron Man movie. Everyone I've ever recommended this movie to loves it. It's a great movie. Craig, have you seen this one?
Only parts of it, yeah.
But it's really good. Smokey, it's good. You'd like it.
What does this have to do with Christmas?
It's all during Christmas.
Now, see, I don't know. That's the debate. If it happens during Christmas, is it a Christmas movie?
Well, that's the Die Hard debate.
Yeah, okay.
That's the whole debate.
I saw this, so I did see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That's not
even the title. Is that the title?
No,
Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I was like 7. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Number 4, Gremlins. Smokey, I know you've had to have seen Gremlins, right?
I got to look it up.
No, there's no way you've seen it. There's no way.
There's no way you've seen Gremlins. This is one of the ones I thought, because it's from like 1984, 1985.
No.
1984. You've never seen Gremlins?
There's 3 of them, so it's not very good when you have to have more than one.
The first one is good. The first one is very good. Yeah.
John Wick would disagree. And
John
would countless other movies with sequels.
Right.
Star Wars franchise. Basically, the entire entertainment industry is all sequels now.
Rocky 1 through 37.
I don't really think of the Gremlins as a Christmas movie. It's one of those cult classics from the 80s that I definitely saw. My cousin and I, we used to get parked back in the grandparents' room to watch TV back there while all the adults sat up front in the living room and whatnot. And we'd watch countless movies, and there was a couple that were always in the rotation. One was Willow, and one was, and I'm surprised I haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang all the way through, because of Val Kilmer is probably my favorite actor. But one of them was Goonies, one of them was Willow, and one movie I remember seeing a lot was Gremlins. So
What was who was Mogwai?
Mogwai was the main little gremlin, cute little gremlin. If you got water on him,
that's why
if you don't get water, you don't feed him after midnight. There's all these rules.
I have to be able to see every of the last 3. I have to see 2 of the last 3. You get to smack you.
Yeah, you might have seen this one. I don't know. This one is good. Listen, this is a good one to watch with your significant other. Number 3, 4 Christmases. Vince Vaughn, Reese Witherspoon. They are a couple who's not married. They're going on vacation. Their vacation gets delayed because of fog. Their family catches them on the news, and they have to go to their divorced parents' Christmases. Great cast in this movie. Outside of Vince Vaughn, it's got Jon Favreau. It's got Sissy Spacek. Robert Duvall plays Vince Vaughn's dad. He's hilarious in the movie. Jon Voight, Mary Steenburgen. I'm leaving somebody out. So great cast, really funny stuff.
Mary who?
Steenburgen.
Okay, all right.
Ted Danson's wife.
Sissy Spacek?
Yeah.
Wasn't she like in an evil movie?
She was Carrie.
Yeah, okay.
She was Carrie.
All right.
Good job on
There's
that
no way you're this unaware of movies. Like Sissy Spacek is your age, basically.
I know. She was in a scary movie.
But you're acting like you don't know who she is.
I know.
She's been in some westerns.
I do know who she is. She was the one that was evil. But at the same time, I did not see this one either.
And look, Robert Duvall is in this movie, which makes it worth seeing no matter what.
In the world? Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't seen this because I just haven't seen it. But I was going through I was trying to pick out various Christmas movies to put in a little playlist or something, and this popped up, and I hadn't seen it, so I didn't add it. But I'll have to check it out at some point.
Yeah, it's a good one. Number 2, Scrooged.
Yeah.
You've seen Scrooged with Bill Murray. See, there we go. That's the one I thought for sure you'd seen. I love the story of Christmas Carol. I was a big Dickens fan because I'm an English major, but this to me is the most original retelling of it when they tried to do, a Christmas Carol retelling. It's very original. It's very good. It's Bill Murray, so even Bill Murray's worst stuff isn't really that bad, when it comes all down to it. I think even when he does bad stuff, he's kind of aware of it, and you can just tell he's like, thanks for the money. But Scrooge is one of his better movies to me, and it's a must-watch at Christmas time, and hilarious all the way through.
Yeah, it's definitely on my must-watch Christmas playlist. I don't know, I like the feel, and I think a lot of people do, of like New York during the holiday season. This is very much a New York Christmas movie. It has that feel to it. Especially like 80s New York. I don't know. Maybe that's just nostalgia with all the movies from back then, but this is like right in that wheelhouse. And yeah, love Bill Murray. Very unique movie, even though it's a ripoff of A Christmas Carol. But it's an awesome 80s throwback for sure.
And number 1, Billy Bob Thornton's opus, Bad Santa. This movie it's not for the kids at all in any way, shape, or form, but it is maybe the hardest I've laughed in a movie theater watching a Christmas movie, just because it's so ridiculously irreverent and so wrong and so bad in so many parts, but ultimately has a feel-good Christmas story at the end. John Ritter, the late John Ritter's in it.
Yeah, definitely. Probably best for the teenage kids or just you and the significant other. But it's definitely not the kiddos' Christmas movie, depending on what house you grow up in, I guess. But funny as all get out, and Billy Bob's great. And, not your typical Christmas movie, but certainly entertaining.
So you don't have, like, Dr. Seuss or anything else in, like...
those are... I could have done an obvious list of It's a Wonderful Life and, How the Grinch Stole Christmas and all that, but, I want to do something that was maybe, a little bit different.
Okay. I don't think I've seen but one of those. And I don't even know if I've seen Bad Santa. Maybe I've seen clips of that one. But to sit down and watch any of them from start to finish, maybe the number 2.
All right. If you can name one other Billy Bob Thornton movie, you can punch me in the arm.
The one with Halle Berry.
But you have to name it.
Monsters.com or something like that.
You were so
Monsters
close.
Ball.
Monsters Ball. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I always thought you were going to say Tombstone.
Yeah, because everybody,
you know what?
Everybody remembers Monsters Ball because of Billy Bob Thornton.
Halle Berry's Academy Award-winning performance, which Billy Bob Thornton was the beneficiary of in many ways.
In many ways.
In that movie. So.
Oh, my God. All right. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that. Hey, a couple of notes. We will not be on with a live show on Thursday or Friday of this week. We'll be back on the air on Monday. We hope you enjoy your Christmas break. All of you, whoever, if you watch or you listen, our great sponsors, whether you joined us the first show back on April the 6th of 2020, or ever you joined us when all hell broke loose in college football with the SEC, Texas, and Oklahoma, or everything else in between. It has been one hell of a ride. But we're not done. We'll be back Monday with a live show, Tuesday with a live show, and then start broadcasting live from New Orleans on Wednesday of next week in preparation for the Sugar Bowl. Armstrong Sims, thank you, buddy. Enjoy your trip to just get away and decompress. Good for you on that. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, everybody enjoy your week. The rest of the week, Merry Christmas. I'm David Smoke for Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.